Peace, greetings, everyone. I hope all is well. I hope your morning, afternoon, wherever you're at, hope that's going well. Hopefully, you'll enjoy and have a great Juneteenth weekend. Hopefully, you will have a great weekend. Please do me a favor as you come to the chat room. As you come into the chat room, hit that like button, share, subscribe. Also, visit dynastamir.com and please visit Donfo, DANFO, Donfo, DANFO dot Africa. Again, please visit Donfo, DANFO dot Africa. Let's see here. What else do we have on the agenda? Well, the laundry list before we actually dive into the topics. Tours, Sierra Leone. Again, Sierra Leone, November 20th through December 3rd. November 20th through December 3rd. Citizenship is available to those who qualify. Again, citizenship is available to those who qualify. Also, Nigeria coming up August 8th through the 17th. Again, August 8th through the 17th for the Oshun Festival. If you're interested in joining us in Nigeria, or more like rolling with us to Nigeria, please hit me up. Go to Donfo, DANFO, Donfo, DANFO .Africa, and you are more than welcome to join us. We will love to have you all. Again, we will love to have you all in Nigeria. Come and yeah, everything's good. What's up, Renaissance man? Yeah, everything's great. We will love for you guys to come and join us in Nigeria for the Oshun Festival. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so guys, I recently released the trailer for the documentary. It is up. Make sure you go to Donfo, DANFO. I'm sorry. It's on my YouTube page. I'm tripping. Got a little bit of everything going. So make sure you I released it here on the page. Donfo, my YouTube page. I got too many websites. My YouTube page here. Search for Uhuru. Again, my YouTube page, search for Uhuru. The actual documentary is now up. It is released. What? Okay, when your settlement is done. All right. I don't. Okay. All right. Okay. No, I'm not sending you my number. I don't, James. You send me an email, guys. If you want to reach out to me, send me an email. I'm not just gonna send random people my phone number in the chat. So, um, send me an email if you want to ask a question or anything. Okay, the coma guy. Okay, all right. Okay, I know you. And yeah, I know you are the coma guy. Okay, all right. Hopefully, you're feeling better, brother. Hopefully, you're feeling better. But yeah, the trailer is now live. The trailer is now live on my YouTube page. So, guys, make sure you please do me a favor and check that out. And I appreciate you guys' support. The actual documentary is going to be released on June 30th. Again, it's going to be released June 30th. So please, Big Fo Nation, the trailer looks dope. Thank you. So the actual film will be released on June 30th. Make sure you visit searchforhuru.com. It'll be released on searchforhuru.com. James Paul, I don't know you. It'll be released on searchforwho.com. So, guys, make sure you do that. Check that out. Please support the documentary. This is like 10 years in the making. I planned on releasing the documentary sooner, but I had some very important life events take place and good things take place in 2019 and 2021. So, yeah. So, go ahead and make sure you guys check out the documentary. Once it's released, stay tuned. I will announce it, send out emails, all that good stuff, so you guys can check it out. So, and it's In Search of Uhuru. Just tells my story, my journey, my experience in discovering and uncovering my African roots. So yeah. So please make sure you guys do me a favor and check that out. Let's see here. What else do we have here? So I wanted to do a part two. I know some people, they didn't want to end the stream yesterday. They didn't want to end the stream yesterday. You know, we were discussing our African family on the continent, um, are they oblivious to racism? So there was this BBC documentary called is it Racism for Sale? I believe it's called Racism for Sale. So I watched it yesterday. I watched it yesterday, and then wanted to do a show on it. And you know the way foreigners sometimes could come into our communities, especially in Africa, and just abuse us. It's crazy. Again, the way foreigners could come into our communities and just abuse us is crazy. I mean, you had the story of the lady in Uganda said that she was a surgeon. Said that she was a surgeon and was just in the villages and communities in Uganda and was just having surgery on children, on kids, and killed like several children. And then she goes back to America. I think she's on trial, but you don't know what's going to happen. In fact, let me pull this up real quick. Let me pull this up real quick. This is crazy. This is the stuff that people get away with, foreigners get away with in Africa. It's like you know, in 2022, it's like you can't be this naive. Like you can't be this naive in 2022. You have to have some type of self-respect in 2022 because you know the I think her name was Renee Botch. Hold on, let me look it up real quick because you know the excuse is well they don't have access to the information and they don't have access for this and um listen, U.S. missionary settles suit over child deaths. Oh my God, I'm gonna pull this up. See, this is the stuff they get away with, and it's to the point now like we let them get away with it. Who can we get mad at? Like who can we get mad at? Like you allow this to happen in the communities. Like, let me pull this up. This lady, Renee Bach. Yeah, we can only blame ourselves at this point. Here we go. U.S. missionary with no medical training settles suit over child deaths at her center. Renee Bosch, an American missionary who operated a charitable treatment center for severely malnourished children in Uganda, despite having no medical training, has settled a lawsuit brought against her in Ugandan civil court by two women and a civil rights organization. At least 105 children died in the charity's care. Again, let me repeat this. At least 105 children died in the charity's care. Bach was being sued by Gimbo Zubeda, whose son Tawali Kifabi was one of those children who passed away, as well as by Kakaki Annette, whose son Elijah Kabagambe died at home soon after treatment by the charity. Hold on. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I no. This doesn't. This stuff like this happens to no other people. Again, stuff like this happens to. We can't be this naive and oblivious. Under the agreement reached this week, Botch and the charity serving his children have jointly agreed to pay about $9,500 to each of the mothers. I mean, it's like I can't. It's amazing. Like, I'm not laughing, but you can't make this up. With no admission of liability. Prima Kuagala, a Ugandan civil rights attorney whose organization filed the suit on behalf of the mothers in January of last year, said that the settlement was in line with the typical court judgments for medical malpractice death cases in Uganda, and that it had brought her clients a measure of closure. $9,500. You can't make this up. I mean, I don't even want to finish the article. I'm embarrassed. Like, I'm embarrassed. I am embarrassed. Like, only stuff like this happens in our communities globally. Kills 105 children, is not a doctor, wasn't practicing legally, sues. I mean, they file a lawsuit. They settle for altogether $19,000. Killed, and they're saying this brings them closure. This is why we get no respect globally. This is a whole separate show. Yeah, this is a whole separate show. Then you had the situation in Uganda with the missionary slapping the employee. Like, this is, I mean, religion has done a number on us. $19,000 killing 105 children. And I want to say the Ugandan government had removed her from Uganda. Then she came back. I want to say I think they kicked her out of the Uganda, or kicked her out of the village she was operating in. And then she came back. Again, they kicked her out, and then she came back. It's I mean, and there's so many like stories like this. She even took a child back to Virginia with her. Hey guys, links in the chat room. We'll also talk about the documentary, the BBC documentary. But yeah, I would love to hear from Uganda. In fact, I might reach out to this lawyer and say, like, how can this happen? No jail time, no nothing. But she was allowed to leave twice. So I remember when she has a couple bodies on her, they let her go. I think they fined her like $1,000, the government, something like that, and they let her go, and she left. Then she doubled back and came back, killed some more children, and was allowed to leave again. And they're gonna try to sue her while she's in America. That ain't gonna work. But it's to the point now we can only blame ourselves. Yeah. So guys, with the documentary, pretty much it starts from day one from going to Africa, from day one going to Africa, all the way till like close to present day. Because we wrapped up, we finished filming in November. Yeah. So up to present day for the most part. So the Dogon in it are in there. Uh, Everything's in there. Everything's in the documentary. But listen, links in the chat room. Link is in the chat room. Click on that link if you'd like to call in. Again, click on that link if you like the call in. Yeah, man, it's amazing. Like I'm just sitting here kind of because I haven't. So last time I checked on this case was probably around 2019 when I guess the government of Uganda was filing charges or doing whatever. And the case just came back to mind when we did the stream yesterday on racism for sale. And I'm just finding this out now as you all. Like I just looked that up. She only had to pay $19,000. That's crazy.
Hey,
Yo, what's up, Al?
what's up, man? Yeah, I know a little bit about this because she's right here in Virginia, not far from here. She has a little girl that she took back with her, and she's been denying all wrongdoing. But when you look at the facts, she she basically was giving kids bad blood transfusions, and because she basically was not medically certified to do anything. She was an EMT, which I am too. We're not even allowed to intubate, much less give blood transfusions. And she basically was giving people blood transfusions, looking them up on the YouTube, and reading up on it on the internet, and then going in for surgery. And so the kids who made it encouraged her to continue to do it because those kids happened to be getting the right blood, right?
Yeah, but how can kids encourage? I mean, where were the parents? You mean the kids? You mean the parents or the kids?
Well, the parents. Well, the thing with the parents is they saw was they needed a hospital, they needed a medical center, and she had a charity. She went over there. She was only like 19, 20 years old, and she basically started a thing called serving his children. It was like a Christian based.
And
Um,
again, these missionaries come to Africa and just run rapid.
yeah, yeah, and because of the faith, and because they were in such the area she was in needed the medical facilities, and the kids were sick, she went ahead and was performing surgery she had no business um, doing. And most of those kids, like I said, were blood transfusions, and that's a very painful way for a kid to die when your body's rejecting the blood that was put inside of them. It was awful that those
When you
parents
say
had.
painful, I don't want to be too graphic, but
Yeah.
explain like what happens when when
Well,
you.
yeah, it's. I mean, your body, you have blood types, right? And if your body, if your body is actively rejecting the blood that's put inside of it, um, your body becomes riddled with pain, basically. And the parents had to watch their kids die over the course of a few days, um, you know, in the most painful way possible. It was not a nice way for those kids to die. And it isn't that the fact that she did it that bothers me. It's the fact that she continued to do it.
Well, like I said, she got caught. I want to say, and they just slapped her on the wrist, the government. And
Right.
I want to say she left and then came back and started doing it again.
Yeah. Yeah. Because she felt in her mind, she felt that, well, the fact that I'm doing this is better than those kids getting nothing. And that was her attitude.
So like
It's very
Fabian,
tragic.
like Fabian is asking, it said in the chat room. So the children suffered agonizing deaths.
Yes. Yes, agonizing, painful deaths. You're not. You have to have the right type of blood, matching blood type, unless it's the universal blood type, which is I think it's the O negative. I forget which one it is, but she was putting wrong blood types in people. And again, every time she had a successful one, she would claim that thank Jesus, and then she would continue to go ahead and do it again. And she was she didn't realize it was just a luck shot that the person happened to be given the proper blood.
Uh, Go ahead, Zanny.
Hey, what's up, brother Dynast? I've been watching you for a minute.
Uh-huh.
It's good to be with you on the
Yes, sir.
show. Uh, yeah, and I think the universal blood is O positive, as the other brother just talked about. But I just want to comment on, you know, the issue with Uganda. I think one of the problems I think is that when things like
good question. Are you Ugandan or where are you from?
I'm originally from Zambia.
Okay, Zambia. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I'm calling you from Michigan right now. So I think one of the issues that I think we have, on the African continent, and just we in general, and when I say we, as Africans or Black folks, if you will, but I would just restrict it to Africa per se, is that the elites on the continent are one, negligent. At the same time, I think they're accomplice, right, to the whole problem. In any culture, and this is my opinion, in any culture, you have your, I guess you might call it the 1%, the elite, the political class or the economic class that run things. They're the ones who know the ins and outs of how to operate and run a country, how to get into the country where, the loopholes exist. Who's protecting the most vulnerable people in our community? Because I'm not sure this problem is not just restricted to Africa. There's
No,
other.
no,
Go ahead,
no,
brother.
no. But sorry to interrupt you. This is the problem.
Mhm.
So, like I said on the last show, if a black person goes to China or any other country, it don't matter how poor, how rich, how desolate, they get on code. They won't allow us to pull what you just saw happen in Ghana.
Absolutely,
But for some
absolutely.
reason, other races of people, they come to Africa and some people are like, well, they never seen the white people before. They never experienced white people before. But these other people, they've never really experienced with all black people. And they automatically get on code. So what is it?
Well, I don't, what, I just want to say, I don't think it's automatic, but I do think in any community, no matter how small or backward, for lack of a better phrase, is that the people, for the people to get on code, in that community, there are people who are the gatekeepers, right? And they get everybody else to rally behind getting everybody on code. And I think in our situation, like on the African continent, somebody comes in, me being from Zambia, I could tell you straight up, somebody comes in the community, they just have just the keys to run around and nobody's keeping track where folks is going or exactly what they're doing. And because it's almost as if the people who are at the top are paid off. And I'm not talking about government officials. You could go into a remote village, right? All it takes is some village chief or village headman to be in the know. And once they're in the know, like, hey, we got such and such operating in our backyard. And as long as that village headman or chief is in the know, nobody else is going to do anything about it. And that seems to be the problem that is rampant all over the continent. No matter what country you go to, it just seems to be, I mean, you might even argue to some extent that's what made slavery be so successful, right?
No, you're right. That's why slavery was so successful. But it's just crazy that's still going on to this day. And even like with slavery, what do these people have to show for it?
Really, nothing.
Nothing. Nothing. Hold on. Guys, links in the chat room. Link is in the chat room. If you guys want to call in, click on that link. Again, I'll put the link back in the chat room. But again, Zanny, the problem is these people don't get punished.
No, they don't. Let me just give you an example real quick, brother. So one time I was visiting Zambia, right? I'm sitting at the airport I'm with my daughter. I'm about to catch a plane. I think it was Emirates to fly back to the US.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bunch of foreigners, and mostly it was white folks, seated at you know how these airports sometimes are, right? You gotta get on the bus that drives right up to the
Right. To
aircraft.
the point, right?
Yeah,
Tarmac,
yeah. So we seated out there. It's hot, and it was like an Emirates plane out there. There was another plane that was supposed to be out there. So I believe there was two flights going out that night, and people is complaining. I'm sorry, there was a call coming in, but can you hear?
Hear you.
So the folks out there were belligerent, right? Complaining, and everybody's not on code, as so to speak. And the immigration officers, the authorities, right, who are supposed to take charge, are just overwhelmed, and nobody's doing anything. So I get up, right, and I'm just a traveler. I get up and I get right to the front, and I'm like, "Excuse me, I had to speak on top of my voice. And I was like, if any one of you want to get on that plane, you're going to have to give these authorities a chance to do their job. Right? I was more authoritative than I am right now. And guess what? These authorities just sat there looking at me, and everybody kept on clapping. And they're like, oh, yeah, thank you for doing this. Because I'm like, you well damn sure know if you were anywhere else in Europe, in the US, in the Middle East, in Asia somewhere, you wouldn't do this. They wouldn't allow you to get away with this. But for some reason, folks feel emboldened and empowered to do that on the African continent. And I turned around to the authorities. I'm like, you're supposed to take charge. And like you were saying, right, you're supposed to be prideful in your country, no matter how poor it is. If these folks had it so good where they're coming from, they shouldn't be here. I don't care how much money they're coming to spend here. Matter of fact, Zambians, to be on Zambia specifically, are spending more money. The remittances that they send here is more money than y'all collect on tourism from any of these folks. So why do you put up with this crap? And they just stood there. Again, it's just that pride in yourself, right?
Yeah, people do feel emboldened, and going back to this girl Michelle Bach, whatever her name is, she felt emboldened to do things because she looked at Africa as like the wild wild west. She was the white savior. She can come to Africa and set up a charity she couldn't have set up in the United States, a medical clinic. She could feel like she was doing something positive, and then she decided she could take it a step further and start performing surgeries and start giving blood transfusions and doing things she was not trained to do because it was cheaper than going ahead and try to contact and get a doctor to come in and do it. She felt she could do it herself. That is how many of these people feel about being in Africa. They feel like it's a wild west, and it's full of opportunities. They can just do what they want, and unless your government steps up and tells people no and is actually monitoring that, because that's what the issue was. There was no oversight. She said she had a clinic. They said, oh, white woman has a clinic, and then they just went ahead and let her do what she wanted to do. And there clearly was no oversight if you allow that many children to die in one area and you haven't gone back and checked and see what was happening. So I blame whatever the local government is. I understand it was in a rural area. It wasn't in Kampala or anything like that, but it's it was bad. It was really bad, and it was a mini genocide of ego, based on her ego and her feeling that I could do surgery, and went ahead and did it herself.
Guys, hit the like button again. Please hit the like button. Links are in the chat room if you want to call in and add to the conversation. Link is in the chat room. But it's just, Alan, I'm like shocked this is still happening, and then like I'm just shocked it's still happening.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot to be shocked about. Listen, I'm a Christian, right? But as you pointed out many times, if you walk around, you think that God is this white man, and you've never seen one before, and then one appears, then God has appeared to you, and they can't do anything wrong. You don't question, had the same amount of questions that you have for people who look like yourself. It's really sad. There's a lot of stuff about this woman and what she did. I just listened to something a history podcast about her, and so I've actually taken in a lot of information on her. And like I said, she's not far from here at all, and she's living with her little Ugandan child that she's raising now in Virginia.
Oh my God. Ugh. So she was allowed to adopt as well. The add
Yeah.
insult to injury.
Yes, she's taken a child from Uganda and has them with her.
This is Fabian says, why would she do blood transfusions for malnourishment? She should have given them electrolytes and started the food program.
Of course, she didn't know what the hell she was doing. She's not a doctor. She was a young woman who heart may have been in the right place, but the audacity to do things that you were not trained to do, and the arrogance to think that I can just look on the internet and I can figure it out, like it's a do-it-yourself project. That was the problem. So I don't even think the woman had any wicked intent. She has a real nasty ego.
No, Alan, again, when you kill this many amount of children, get kicked out, come back, do it some more, escape to America, and then only offer $19,000 as a settlement.
But that's
Like
how
this
delusional.
girl is mentally.
Yeah, that's how delusional she is. She really and her to this day she still thinks that she did more good than harm in Uganda. And this decision is not holding her accountable, so she can continue to live in that delusion.
I promise you, if I was Ugandan, like I wouldn't, and I was in the DMV area, I wouldn't even allow her to come outside. I'll be in front of her house every day.
Yeah.
In fact, no, never mind. We'll talk offline about that. Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy. I wonder if she's back working. Like,
Oh, she's living life. She's living her life, and she's saying that she talked about how traumatized she was from all this that's happened, and how she was there to help the kids, and you could look her up online. You can see her up there making all the excuses in the world for what she did. But the fact of the matter is, she still to this day does not seem to quite grasp what she did. And that's the delusion she's allowed herself to go into. That's why I said I focus more on her ego. Her ego, to even attempt to do surgery based on what you saw online, takes a special level of ego.
Can I just chime in, Dinas, just on one thing? And because it's in the broader question you asked. Kind of how do people still get away with this kind of stuff today in 2022? And you look back, in our history, like African history, even to this day, coming from the continent, right? There's very little that was taught in terms of our people understanding their own history, our understanding, even slavery itself, and understanding colonialism. Like I'll give you an example. I was watching a documentary. No, actually, I was watching there's a YouTuber family. They call the unapologetic nomads. They're currently in Zambia. So I was watching. They were touring, I think, Livingston, the Victoria Falls. We still have towns named after colonizers, right? We honor these guys. Okay. And here's a conversation. The justification is that David Livingstone, who was like a missionary explorer, he exposed Livingstone and the Victoria Falls to the entire world. This is how we still justify this in Africa today. We name places, of colonizers, people who actually did more damage, right? But again, I will speak personally. I had very little understanding of my African history and even very little understanding of slavery until I came to the United States. Until I actually, even within the United States, I had at the college level, I had to study history, American history, then pivoted back to African history. To get a little bit of some pride about ourselves as a people, we're going to have to know who we are. And a lot of the times, even when I visit Zambia, a lot of the times you could tell like a whole bunch of our people just don't know what they have, don't know who they really are. So they allow anybody to come in. And pretty much if you go in Zambia, for instance, speaking English, obviously we've made English the official language, right? So speaking English is rated above speaking any of the local languages. And if somebody is even lighter skinned or they're from outside, they're not even questioned at all. And these ideas are perpetuated mostly by the elites. I have people even within family that teach their kids to speak only English. And I go back home, I'm like, you live in Africa. How is it that your kids cannot speak a word of any of the local languages? So when women like her go to Africa with the savior mentality, trust me, they're walking in an environment that's ready to receive them and that's ready to put them on a pedestal. And the people who I blame the most about it are people among us who know better, because to whom much is given, much is expected. But a lot of the times, even the authorities we have, like I said, are accomplice to some of this behavior.
Hold on, hold on. I'm about to play something. I just found this. Hold on one second. Let me play this real quick.
A Christian missionary is fighting to clear her name tonight following accusations by two mothers.
I think that oftentimes anyone.
A Christian missionary is fighting to clear her name tonight following accusations by two mothers in Uganda and a group called No White Saviors that the Virginia woman contributed to the deaths of, they say, hundreds of babies by treating them without a medical license at her nonprofit charity clinic called Serving His Children. That missionary, Renee Bach, joins us now to tell her side of the story, along with her attorney, David Gibbs. Renee and David, thanks for joining us.
Happy to be with you, Shannon.
Okay,
Thanks, Shannon. It's good to be here.
I want to read from Women's Pro Bono Initiative. They're one of the plaintiffs joining with these two mothers. They say the mothers allege they were led to believe that Miss Renee Bach was a medical doctor and that her home was a medical facility, as she was often seen wearing a white coat, a stethoscope, and administrations to children in her care. The action for Renee and SHC led to the death of hundreds of children. Renee, that is a serious allegation. How do you respond?
So first off, I have never represented myself as a medical professional or health worker of any type. The organization Serving His Children hires medical professionals that are Ugandan, local and national folks. And I have assisted our medical team in emergency settings and in crisis situations. I have never practiced medicine, have never adorned or put on a uniform or white coat for that matter. So yeah, it's a tough allegation for sure.
So David, I know that you have said you believe this group is potentially defaming her. They may be libelous and slandering her. Would you consider legal action in return? Do you think your case is strong enough?
Well, Shannon, absolutely, the case would be strong enough. Now, the problem with these reputational terrorists on the internet is even finding these people all around the world and putting out information that's not fact-based. And it's very sad when a missionary or humanitarian or any individual from the United States or any developed nation wants to go into a third world or a health crisis somewhere like in Uganda, what Renee and Serving His Children has done. And they come under these attacks with no way to really defend yourself effectively. We believe that it's important that you get good information out. And while they want to talk about these desperately sick children that were tragically lost, they're ignoring the fact that 3,600 children had their lives saved. What Serving His Children did with a medical team there in Uganda and under Renee's leadership was truly remarkable.
Okay, so to respond to that, because this group, No White Saviors, you talk about how they use the internet. They have spoken out a lot and on social media, and to this point that there were good things being done along with what they allege were bad things being done. They say this: look at all of their service. Look at all the good they've done for all of God's people. A deeply flawed logical reasoning only afforded to white folks who've committed heinous crimes. Whiteness gives you the benefit of the doubt even when the evidence is clear as day. Renee, are you surprised by these attacks, and how do you hope to prove your innocence?
So there definitely is a movement right now, and the white savior complex or white saviorism are kind of hot button topics, at least in the world that I come from. And I would have to say, when I originally went to Uganda in 2007, it was to volunteer with an established orphanage there, and it was through that experience that led me to return to Uganda and ultimately found serving his children. And so I have to say that when I went to Uganda the first time, I was a young American woman boarding a plane to Africa, and I definitely had a white savior complex. I mean, my desire to go to Uganda was to help people and to serve. And I think that oftentimes anyone coming from a culture such as America, or a culture where we would say we've had great privilege, going into a culture that is stated to be, underdeveloped or with a lack of resources, anyone can be considered a white savior in that environment. And I was not immune to that myself. I am proud to say that through the growth of serving his children and personal growth, I realized that, I wasn't even needed in Uganda for programs to operate, and were completely Ugandan-led and nationally run. And so these accusations are incredibly disappointing, as I've spent the majority of my adulthood serving in Uganda, but I also realized that not everything was done perfect the right time, and I'm willing to stand for the organization and for the work that we've done there.
Okay, Renee and David, we will follow the case. Thank you for joining us.
That is an awful piece of so-called journalism. What they tried to do is they tried to make it seem as if this is just like a mean girl internet attack, instead of presenting the actual evidence against her and confronting her with it. But it's Fox News. But that was awful. She again, as you could see the delusion. She's completely deluded herself into thinking that the ends justify the means, because she had clinics and some basic care and prenatal care was done there, that it justifies the things that she actually did. And we're not saying somebody else did under her watch or her organization did under her watch. These are things operations that she performed herself. She did, in fact, wear a white coat and a stethoscope there and played doctor. And people assumed, because she was white, that she was a doctor. I mean, those are the facts, and it's as plain as day.
Yeah, but Alan, again, people assume that because she was white. I mean, what do we have to do to change that?
You have to have oversight. They have to have oversight. The fact that you could build a clinic there, and the woman, again, when she first came over to Uganda, she was 19 years old. She was not experienced or old enough to be anything. And so as soon as you hear that she was performing surgeries and she's 22, 23, 24 years old, then that should have been a red flag. She didn't have to present any documentation to anybody. There was no authority. There was a whole lot of people who dropped the ball with her. It's awful. And then again, the faith component works in there. She was believed because she played on people's faith. She was saving his children, his being God's children. Named the organization after that, the clinic after that, and was able to get people to come in.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just. How do you feel about it, Zani? After hearing her side of the story?
I still, I agree with most of what Alan is saying. Right? It's obviously it's Fox News, and after listening to her, the program she went to Uganda under, I can't remember exactly what it was, because I remember I went to University of Michigan. They do have these international programs. You could pick a country, but they're well managed, especially if you go through well managed as in relative, right? If you go with an institution, there's also the university sponsoring you and the reputation on the line. So some kind of research and homework is done. It seems with this woman, after she went into Uganda, after a while, she was on her own. So probably she grew, like all of us, when we go to a place, you outgrow the rules, you know how to cut corners, right? And, as you know, sometimes in Africa, there's a reputation for lack of oversight. So because of that lack of oversight, my view is that in these countries, who actually is the gatekeeper? Who's keeping an eye on keeping track on who comes in, what organizations are doing, because a lot of the times we know in Africa there's a lot of gaps between information, right? And I know that's not an excuse. If you go to, say, Lusaka, for instance, or Kampala, I've been to Uganda. If you go to Kampala and you go to the outskirts in the rural areas, the farming community, the villages, in terms of education gaps and information gaps is quite wide, but the locals know that, the authorities know that. Who's teaching the leadership in these areas? Who's keeping track that this is what we look for if there's any foreigners or any outside entities that are not common to the local people, any information that seems foreign, who's competent enough to be keeping oversight and watching for our people? Because exactly like you were saying, Dinus, if you go to, this seems to be only happening on the African continent. It only seems to be happening, even if you compare the United States. Why didn't she do this in the United States? Because she knows she's not going to get away with it. And for some reason, folks know they can get away with stuff on the African continent like they can't get away with anywhere else. And who do we fault for that? I think the systems there, obviously, as we know, they are lacking. Look, even the words they're using, third world, nobody really uses those words anymore, third world. And I think last time I checked, we have the global north and the global south. You know, some of the problems that are attributed to Africans, you still find them anywhere else. The only difference that I see anywhere else, like you were talking about China, for instance, I'm pretty sure the powers that be, the elites in China, they will not let that happen. No matter what corner, remote dirt of China, something is going down, they're going to keep tabs of who's coming in and who's doing what. Now, African elites, the political system, the economic system, it seems like each one for themselves and God for us all.
Hey guys, links in the chat room. If you want to click on the link and call in and add to the conversation, please do. Tour, somebody was asking in the chat room. We're rolling to Nigeria August 8th through the 17th. We are rolling to Nigeria August 8th through the 17th. So if you're interested in joining us, please go to Danfo, DANFO.Africa. Again, Danfo, DANFO.Africa. Also, Sierra Leone, November 20th through December 3rd. And citizenship is available to those who qualify. Again, citizenship is available to those who qualify. So once again, link is in the chat room. Click on the link and you're more than welcome to call in and add to the conversation. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, I agree with what Zanny was saying. That is this is what not having oversight looks like. This is what happens when you and if you look in the history of this country, you've had in America, you've had times where there was no regulation and people got away with a whole lot of things. So it's not something that's unique to Africa and the African continent. It may be unique in this day and time, but when you see people who are talking about how they want to get rid of regulation and stuff like that, well, this is what lack of regulation looks like. People doing things, sometimes lots of works out, maybe even work out most of the time. Then you have people who are doing just some heinous things, and again, it doesn't have to be with evil intent. It just has to be enough ego and a sense of superiority to carry these things out. And from what I've seen from this, that's what happens. You listen to that sweet innocent woman that you just showed there. You don't think she's evil. You don't think that she's doing anything wrong. I'm just here to help and this, that. Yeah, she was there to help, but she thought that she could get away with stuff and doing things that she had no business doing. They didn't ask her about the surgeries that she performed herself. They didn't ask her about the blood transfusions. They didn't ask her about, what training she had to do any of those type of things. That was a very much a powder puff interview. And what it does, and what the message that came across to the audience was that here they go again, accusing a white person of doing something bad when all she was trying to do was help. You see this pure, innocent white woman, she didn't mean to do anything. And so, the lawyer was more than happy to come on Fox News and do that because that is how his client was presented. And I'm sure that went a long way to help his case.
$19,000, Alan.
Well, I mean, with the exchange rate, that might be a lot to them. And I hope honestly that you know they're able to pick up the pieces of their lives and stuff like that. So I mean, my kids were just recently in Uganda, and the exchange rate is you know with American money is very favorable to them. So maybe that amount of money would probably go a long way in Uganda. So you know maybe it's adequate for them. I don't know.
Nah, it's just once again, and I said even here in America, when you know black men get killed by the police, you know here comes Benjamin Crump, you know, and they rather have a settlement over justice.
Well, yeah, a little bit different of a situation, but yeah, they would a lot of family members are cool with just cashing in on the death of their loved ones here in the United States. That's for sure. But no, she should have been in jail. There's no way that she could have done the things that she did and have the amount of dead babies where that she's not extradited and sent back to Uganda. She should have been made to stay in Uganda and serve out her sentence and even give back the child that she has, you know. But she got away with it, and she's here in America, and that's part of her privilege. She can do that.
Yeah, but so let me ask you this: should we be just as upset with the Ugandan government as Renee Bosch?
I say, oh, go ahead, Alan.
No, not as upset, but close second. Again, if you do not have oversight, then people can do, and you set up a Wild Wild West situation. People can come to your country and do whatever it is they want, and then they can do the mental gymnastics necessary to justify what it is they're doing, and make it seem as if, well, they would have nothing if I wasn't here, so I'm their savior, and I was able to, at least I was here to start a surgery. You know, it's baffling because I would, quite frankly, I wouldn't have the balls to go up there and say I'm doing blood transfusions, because I had the same training she has. You know, and I know what we can and cannot do, what's within our scope of practice, and that ain't it. If you can't intubate, then you can't even begin a surgery. You know, so it's amazing that she had the balls to get out there and do that.
Well, let me ask you this, Alan. She like incriminated the other Ugandan doctors that was there. Are the Ugandan doctors just as liable as well? Because I know for a fact, you know, here in America, if I don't have the expertise, you know, the doctor's like, get the hell up out of here. What you doing in here?
Right. Well, she's lying. She's lying.
Okay.
The doctors were not there at that clinic the whole time. That's just simply not true. She had nurses, but she did not have doctors there. And that's where the problem was. She did not have the resources to pay the doctors to stay there. And so she started doing stuff herself. That's what happened. She was not telling the truth. And the reporter there did nothing to push back on that. Otherwise, I'm sure her lawyer would have cut the whole thing short.
Go ahead, Zan. I know you wanted to add something.
Yeah, I just, you were asking, should we blame the Ugandan government as much as her? I put them right there at par with each other, right? The Ugandan government is equally to blame. And just like Alan is talking about oversight, without folks having a clear understanding that, when they go to these countries, there are certain rules they have to abide by. There are certain government bodies that have oversight that will keep an eye on things, and knowing what the penalties are, there's really nothing to be scared of. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, if you go to certain countries that practice, say, Islam, and you're not allowed to bring a Bible, folks know that if they fly in and they're caught with the Bible, they know what the consequences are, and you could best believe that folks won't take a chance to go evangelize in some of these places. When you go to Africa, for some reason, in certain parts of Africa, it's just like the Wild Wild West. And, not too long ago, I know, how porous certain countries in Africa can be. I can only speak confidently on Zambia. I've been to quite a few African countries. By 1972, in countries like Zambia, and I think Zambia had approximately about 4 million people. By 1972, which was roughly about 8 years after independence, which was 1964, most of the the Zambians did not have a college degree. From what I hear, by 1972, about 100 people graduated college. Out of that, roughly about 18 were indigenous, meaning Zambians, born and bred. They could trace their heritage from the soil. The other 70 plus, from what I hear, were like either European or Indian heritage. So here's the point that I'm trying to make. Some of these countries, even to this day, when you look at in terms of education, you look at in terms of being sort of open to how the outside world works, the sophistication of somebody like this woman might bring to the country. And already, as you know, Diana, on the continent, skin color, whiteness is currency for somebody coming from the United States or Europe, right? So when they come into these countries, they've lived there for a few years, they've built familiarity, they can go off grid. Who's keeping an eye on all these organizations that they're creating? Because she didn't just do it when she just arrived there. She started doing this later down the line after she became more comfortable with the culture, the community. At this point, she probably knows even how the government operates, how porous, how incompetent some of these governments are, or even some of these agencies can be, right? So at the end of the day, I squarely put the blame as equally on the Ugandan government as I do on this lady. And the final point that I just want to make is this. A lot of the African brothers and sisters, they don't know what white supremacy is. I don't think they're equipped to understand the sophistication of white supremacy. Unless you've lived in the West and in some of these countries, I've been to the Middle East as well. I've never been to China, but I know the racism that our people experience, especially people of color, like Black people in general. So when somebody like this comes in with her sophistication and looking so innocent and so pure, well-intentioned, there's just no way. No, what I'm talking about in comparison to her, probably her education and background coming from the West and working in these rural areas, in Uganda, and yeah, at least in Kampala, you're talking about, a certain level of people who are exposed to information, educated, formally educated. But you go off the grid in some of these countries like Uganda, it's a wild, wild west, free for all.
All right, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah.
You there?
You see, sorry. You see, like one thing we have to consider is in these third world countries, the the government, just like the social programs and things like that, the web that's supposed to be used for those things, it's like he's going into capital flight, to be honest. And that goes back to these structural adjustments, stupid program that the IMF, World Bank, and all these first world countries impose on these African countries, where most of their wealth is like they use to consume things that are necessary, So money left for like social services where you can, put in place to look out for the entire population. It's just that's one factor we have to consider. So to me, all these things that's going on, it just has to do with government bureaucracy and like government just not having enough, enough to put programs in place and to look out for everyone. So we have to. It's with any third world country. There are third world countries in South America, third world countries in Asia. So it's more of a third world issue. So we live in the first world country. So of course, yeah, we see things and we just look at it, like, okay, this thing is here, so why is it not there? Well, we have to put all these factors in place, into consideration. Like, hey, listen, why is the resources not there enough to, I look at Nigeria. We have this something called fuel subsidy, where the government subsidized imported fuel when that's in the billions on a monthly basis, where that billions is something that could go into all these social programs, social services that we're talking about, But why are they doing that? Why are you subsidizing petroleum? You see, obviously someone is forcing you to do that. I mean, I'm not saying it's forced, they're stupid if they allow. I mean, someone is telling you to do that. So I think we just have to find a way to break away from this global order that's been put in place by this so-called Security Council and
I mean,
superpowers and all these things.
Nigeria is not the only country that subsidizes its gasoline or oil for the people.
Well, I get that. I mean, what do you mean? Like, are you saying advanced countries are doing that?
Other countries are doing it. I want to say, yeah, other countries are doing that. Nigeria is not the only country that does that. But I mean, what's wrong with that? Like, what's wrong with
There's
having
a
a
lot
full
wrong with it. Basically, what you do is, okay, you subsidize it, you import it. If you're the one producing the finished refined oil, and then you subsidize, that makes sense. Obviously, the job that you create, the job is created in the country, but you're subsidizing petroleum that's imported from first world countries, from European countries. That doesn't make sense. If you're going to subsidize something, subsidize agriculture, subsidize something that's locally produced, subsidize something that's local, where that at least the money stays in the country. But when you subsidize something that's imported, the money's leaving. So these billions of that, when you importing petroleum and you guarantee these importers that their money is ready for them, you know,
You know what? Brings up a
that's
great
capital
point.
flights.
Ruby brings up a great point because I was going to mention Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia does it too. Mike, Saudi Arabia does it too. Okay, I guess he muted himself. Alan, what are your thoughts on Mike's logic?
Well, Mike's logic is that it is a third world issue, and it is to an extent, which is why I kept emphasizing oversight and putting systems in place to catch people. I was offering that pretty much as a solution to it, because that's the only solution. I was saying, like I said before, a lot of people in this country like to say that they don't like oversight and they don't like regulation, and there is a such thing as overregulation. But when you go to a place there's no regulation at all, and people are allowed to just do whatever they want to do, that could be a good thing, and a lot of great things can come out of that. Great ideas. And listen, her clinic was not a bad idea. Where it went wrong was when she decided that she could perform the procedures herself, and didn't have people with the expertise to do so, and that was acceptable for Africans, and it wasn't, or Ugandans, but it wasn't acceptable. It was something that wouldn't have been found acceptable at all if she was back home. That's where the problem is. So again, it has to be some sort of oversight, and government. The role of government is to actually protect people, and if they're not going to do that, then things like this can happen.
Go ahead, Mucci.
Hey, Dennis, how are you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Hey, so Dennis, I would make a few points. So one, from yesterday, man, there was a lady who was making some excellent points. I think she was of Nigerian heritage from England or something, and she said something to the effect that only South Africa had fought the white people. That was very, very offensive to the rest of the Southern African countries. As you already know, probably, I think I've told you, I'm from Zimbabwe.
I think Zimbabwe. I want to say Angola as well, and
exactly Mozambique. Especially Mozambique, Angola, Zimbabwe. We fought armed struggle against the white settler rulers. A lot of us died. South Africa, they didn't even fight a war in South Africa. In fact, there was a lot of South Africans who were exiled in Zimbabwe, and we had the South African military, the Boers, were bombing Zimbabwean suburbs in Harare because they were trying to kill operatives from the ANC and stuff like that. So sometimes I see our people, even when we don't have enough facts, we advance things that are not true. Anyway, that's okay. That's a bit of education that we did fight.
Moti, let me just add on to the point you made. Matter of fact, the current ruling political party, which has been in power for over 20 years in South Africa, the ANC, their headquarters was in Zambia, and two of their presidents lived in Zambia on exile. And I believe one of the first countries that Nelson Mandela visited when he came out of prison was Zambia, if I'm not mistaken. You can fact check me.
That is very true. That is very true. So let me tell you something. I actually had a cousin that went to study Cuba, right? And he was working for the Cuban embassy in Harare. And you know what? He met Thabo Mbeki, and he had come from Zambia. And I was in grade school, and he was saying, I met a very brilliant African gentleman. I think this guy is going to be one of the future leaders of South Africa. You know, because yes, ANC was based mostly in Zambia, and then you see the ZANU PF that's ruling Zimbabwe now. They were more aligned with the PAC, which was more communist. So that's how that it plays out. But anyway, the other thing I wanted to say, this gentleman, I think Zain somebody was talking about the Nigerian guy was talking about subsidies. So, Dynast, if you don't understand exactly how subsidies work, you're right. The most oil-producing countries, they have subsidies on oil, right? They may try and make it cheap for the local population. However, there is a big problem with the subsidies in Africa, because what happens is the ruling elites, right? Because you're basically giving a discount, right? But sometimes they will make it such that there's a few people access those subsidies, and then they turn around and they sell the same product at a higher price. So it's a rent-seeking behavior, which even though it looks like it's good for the whole population, but sometimes a lot of corruption gets involved with it, and then the elites, they become rich overnight because of these subsidies. So in the end, the locals, the poor people lose out. They lose out. I'll give you one other example. For example, something that's happening in my country, right? They have what's called kind of like a parallel market. So you have they have set a currency exchange rate, like say 200 local dollars equals to $1 US, right? But on the market, the rate is much more higher. Maybe say double. It's 400, right? But then they have an auction system where they say, you know what, businesses and whatever individuals may need the currency can buy from the central bank at 200, right? But only a few people with access connections can buy at 200. So guess what happens? Those people with access can buy at 200 and then just go straight into the street and sell it to the common man for 400, and they already make double the money without doing anything. But you know what? So these are all things that which introduce a lot of corruption, especially in Africa. And then it goes back to this thing about as Zain was talking about. People don't have access to a lot of social services that they should have. And then, hey, guess what? The people are going to come from the West. They're going to come from Japan. They'll come and say, hey, we're going to help you. The people need help. So, what can you say? It's a double-edged sword. People need help, and along the way, sometimes they do get abused. Yeah, we should have oversight, but again, there's only so much resources these governments have, and if they're already not allocating the resources properly, then you end up with this situation when we have to face this. So, yeah, that's my contribution for now.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You're right. But again, the oversight has to happen. No government can bring in people from outside and have no accountability. That just can't happen. So whatever resources you have to allocate some resources towards that end. Otherwise, people will get taken advantage of. That has been proven over and over and over again. I'll give you a great example. In the state of New York, my brother works for the state, and he helps. His only job is to go around to daycares for the state of New York and to regulate daycares. Why? Because people take advantage of people's kids. You'd be surprised what people do to people's kids.
Alan, what happens in these daycares, man? I'm hearing some
people beating people's kids, other people's children, people not feeding them, neglect. My secondary job, I work at a retirement facility. There's regulation there. Why? Because people take advantage and beat old people, elder abuse. So even in this country where we have all this regulation, people still do things to people that they shouldn't. And so imagine now how much more that would happen any place where there is no regulation, where you could just, you don't even have to worry about somebody coming in with a clipboard and writing things down.
But Alan, you are correct. So, I'm sure your brother probably works with the Human Health Services, or else they're contracted with the Human Health Services to conduct that oversight, right? I'm familiar with that.
Yes.
But the thing is, let me tell you, because, yeah, I work for the government, but the thing is, you know what? The thing is this. When you talk about oversight, you're talking about resources, right? Those are people that have to be paid to go out there. They have to set up structures to go out there, to have that mechanism to check, have controls and things like that, right? They have random visits and all that. Nobody's arguing that is well and good. The problem is when the governments are not efficient and they're abusing the limited resources that they have. How in the hell can they have oversight when they don't do the basic stuff? Do you see what I'm saying? So yes, we all want that to be there, but the problem is, you know what? We just, I mean, citizenry and the opposition parties, which always sometimes they're constrained. They have to push and push to get to that point where we start saying, you know what is important? What because you have limited resources, just like in your household, right? You have X dollars of amount for your monthly budget, right? You're not gonna go on vacation if you can't afford bread, if you can't have coffee, if you can't have a meal, right? So even though a vacation is something we all know is good for everybody, you're not going to go on a vacation if you can't afford the basic essentials. So most of these governments, they have resources, maybe not as much, but the worst problem is that there is a lot of corruption. Corruption is extreme.
Dynast, can I just chime in a bit?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So generally, I agree with what Muchi's saying, even what Alan is saying. But just to probably go back to the way I understood your question initially, that Dynast posed, is this, and I'm paraphrasing, what happened, what this lady did, and these sort of actions, they seem to mostly happen on the continent, and I think keeping with the greater theme that our people being taken advantage of. For the continent that's gone through the transatlantic slavery, and in recent years we're talking about colonialism. In most places, it just ended in the 90s. And let's talk about the SAP, structural adjustment programs, and all these programs with the IMF and the World Bank that just people come in and seem like they're uninhibited. They could come in, crisscross the continent, and just basically do whatever it is they want. I think the bigger question is these countries, and I'm looking at in terms of blame, like in Uganda, for instance. You would think countries would be more sensitive now in 2022 to have at least a budget dedicated for protecting our people, because even when I look in the history books and you go back to slavery and any place that people who are either underprivileged, marginalized through this, whether it's government systems or whatever you want to name it or call it, you would think a priority would be made by those who are in the elite. And that's why I blame even the Ugandan government, to Alan's point, lack of oversight. For people who've gone through, us as a people, as a Black people in recent history, who've gone through this history where we get taken advantage of, our people get taken advantage of, you would think that would be a priority. Somewhere, somehow, the elites have to be, they look like us, we look like them. Our people getting taken advantage of, they look exactly like us. So it doesn't matter how much millions of dollars I have in the bank account, how educated I am. One of the things that I learned here in the United States, when you come in, it doesn't matter what your light, your shade of Black is, as far as the system goes and how you're going to be perceived. So you either get on that, you get in line, as much as knowing and understanding how the system works and how the system views you and perceives you. And a lot of people and I'm just speaking from my experience, even here in the US, if you're going to go in the hood, for instance, and I've spent quite a bit of time, my education and transitioning in the United States was spending a lot of time getting educated and getting spun up on what the different histories of the United States are, even within the Black culture, was understanding that there's a code when you go into certain communities. If you act out online, sorry to say this, you're going to be dealt with. In Africa, that just doesn't seem to be the case. There's no semblance of pride whatsoever in most of these areas. So people can go in and pretty much do whatever they want to do with no consequences. And the government is right at the top overseeing all this happening.
Okay, so Zain, okay, Zain. So let me say something, okay? You're African, right? What country are you from?
I'm from Zambia, brother.
Oh, you're from Zambia. I'm from Zimbabwe, so you're my neighbor.
Yes, brother. I lived in Harare, Gokwe, and Chegutu, and them type of places.
So okay, so let me. You should understand this, okay? So there's one thing, or especially African American brothers and sisters might not know, right? The ruling elites in Africa, in a lot of cases, they are actually the gatekeepers for the people that oppress us, right? So I'll give you an example. These non-governmental organizations, when they come in, right? Some of these elites, they are providing services to those organizations, making money out of those organizations, right? When these Chinese are coming in, they are awarding them contracts. I'll tell you right now, Zimbabwe is got maybe the third or second highest reserves of lithium, right? Recently, I saw a Chinese company. They got awarded like hundreds of kilometers, like where there's lithium deposits for like 200 million. And you ask yourself, did somebody really measure in the economic value of the mining that's going to be done? Is this just worth 200 million? But guess what? I'm not saying it happened, but a lot of times in Africa, what happens is somebody actually knows it's worth 500 million, but they take 100 million on the side, put it in an account in Europe, and then they only give 200 million to the country. You understand? So the people that are supposed to be looking out for us, they're actually working with the people that you see doing all these funny things, and then so what is their motive to even do the oversight when they do not respect their own people? The problem with black people in general, especially, I can't say for African American, but I think it's the same, is that we don't respect each other. Okay, if you don't respect each other, why do you expect that a Chinese man is gonna come and respect your people when you don't respect each other? Anytime your people try to demonstrate, you beat them up with the police, you shoot them with the soldiers. And you also, when you display that kind of callousness against each other, yes, when they come here and they set up a gas station in Detroit, in the hood, the Arabs, when they take your money, they take it without even saying hi or anything, because they already know you are a people that don't look out for each other. So we have to do better in general. It's just sad, because these elites that are ruling in Africa, a lot of them studied in Europe, they studied in America, but so they know what white supremacy looks like. But the fact is, you know what? They are not facing any racism in Africa. You think the ruling class face any racism when they try to go into any restaurant in Africa? No, they'll be catered to, because the white people know who's got the power. But the problem is they don't see the issue that even a little kid in the village, when they're abused, they don't feel the pain. They don't feel like it's one of, so until we elevate ourselves, we say, you know what? If a black kid is being abused in Malawi, having to sing stupid, I sent my Ethiopian friend, yesterday, the video about the kid that Dallas you had, she told me she was crying, and this is a woman, a professional. Her husband teaches mathematics at the university, and she was so hurt just seeing how. And the funny thing is, we have a Chinese friend that we work with, and she was like, "Oh, I want to send her this video." I was like, it's not necessary. It's not necessary. But the thing is a lot of the people that are ruling us in Africa, and she was complaining too about Ethiopia, that the Chinese are everywhere, right? And they're always protected. These foreign people, they're always protected by our people that rule us. So,
Mochi, I totally agree with everything you said. I have nothing to disagree with. It's the same way when Alan was speaking, I was saying, hey, when it comes to the oversight, I think we're all saying the same thing, right?
Hey, guys, real quick, let me read this.
Go ahead, bro.
Let me read this super chat. Shout out to Brother Fitzgerald. I'm really upset with this female demon. My issue is with Uganda leadership for allowing this. How do you expect to protect their huge gold find with this docile thinking? Disgusting. What are your thoughts on that comment? Alan, what are your thoughts on that comment?
Well, I mean, I think, unfortunately, I think they'll do a better job of defending the gold than they will sometimes the people. I think that, that is money. I think sometimes in certain places that, you know, when you let things go in the rural areas and then you regulate the cities, that, things are let go and they're allowed to be this way. But that, that gold is definitely a big, is a big deal. And I think everybody's interested in it. And so I think there's going to be more attention focused on it. And so I don't think you're going to get away with taking too much of the gold without, lining somebody's pockets. Now, whether the people benefit from that, that's another thing. But there's going to be plenty of oversight of the gold. People are going to know where the gold is at all times. That's what I think. Maybe somebody here would think I'm wrong.
Okay. And shout out to Jedi Drew for the super chat. All right, go ahead, Zanny. Go ahead and finish your statement. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. No, I totally agree with, and I'm pretty sure Mucci agrees as well with what Alan said. Unfortunately, the oversight is going to go with the gold. And there's a saying in Africa, it's a colloquial phrase, at least in Zambia, is that people think with their stomach and not their brains. And a lot of these elites, that's how they think. I know so many people that have sent their kids, overseas, in the West to get educated there. They themselves went there. And then when they go back, they don't do anything differently. I just came back from Africa, from Zambia specifically, not too long ago. And the trends you see are pretty much in line with what we're talking about. You see police officers, security companies escorting a lot of these foreign interests with suspicious sort of intentions, and they'll have escort everywhere they go. And a lot of these NGOs that come in, again, they don't come in without the consent and expressed say-so of these governments. I went into some of these local establishments. I remember I was in this Chinese-owned store, and I wanted to buy a piece of like a rug. And I asked the guy, I asked the Chinese guy who I saw there to help me out. And this is the trend that I've been seeing for a while. He doesn't want to deal with me. He's using English because his justification later on when I confronted him was like, no, my English isn't good enough. He calls one of the local folks to talk to me and basically serve me. He did not want to serve me. I've seen these even in the Indian stores in Zambia, for instance, where if maybe Mucci knows what I'm talking about. There are these high platforms where they sit at, where they could overlook the entire store. If you,
that's pretty much, there's like feedback. Yeah, Zan, there's like feedback coming from your end. But yeah, I think Zanny, okay, I muted you. Yeah, Zan, I think that's the majority of a lot of these non-African owned businesses in Africa. Because like here in America, when you go into the beauty supply store, they right there. The Koreans, they right there, they're meeting you at the behind the register. Same thing with like the grocery stores, everything. But in Africa, you're right. The employees will be on the floor, and then the non-African owners, they'll be up in the ceiling or somewhere else just observing. But,
they're watching the cash register, Dynasty. They're watching the cash register. That's all they care about. Yeah. And then the other thing that they do sometimes is I've gone to an Indian shop in my country, right? And I was about to buy something, and I told her, they said, "Oh, you can't try it." I was like, "What do you mean I can't try it?" He says, "Yeah, you can't try. You just have to know the size." I was like, "Well, what if it turns out the fit is not right? I will have to bring it back." He says, "No refunds." I was like, "Get the hell out of here!" I said, "No, I'm not doing business with you. Screw you." So they do all these things, but again, it goes back to our people. I mean, can you imagine that people buy things and they are not? They say no refund, no this, no that, things that are not. I mean, that's so disrespectful. But the local leaders that want the politicians, we have the biggest trump card in Africa, Dynasty. When you have political power, you have everything. You have everything. Elon Musk, to be this rich, he had to get subsidies for his electric cars and all that from the US government. It doesn't matter how rich you are, the government can bring you down. So if you have the political leverage, how can you allow, how is it even possible? I can't even fathom that you get somebody saying, oh, they had problems going to a restaurant in Africa, or they're discriminating against Black people in a Black country. That is nonsense. That speaks to our lack of confidence, how, but I recently, I think I saw something from Kenya where they did something like that funny stuff with some restaurant or bar and they shut it down, then that's the right thing to do. Keep them in their pocket. If they have any discrimination, shut them down, take the license, and send them on their way to the airport. If they are not citizens, send them out. The same way that America deports people every day. Why are we not proud enough to say, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter whether they're American or England or whatever. You're gonna leave your stuff here. If you disrespect our people and to treat them the wrong way, you have to, have laws. You have to put the laws in your legislation that make it heavy, put heavy penalties. When people, just like this woman you're saying did this crazy stuff, if a foreigner comes into your country and they do funny things, you have to put laws that that come down heavy on them. You know what? Most people, when they know the penalty is so heavy, they'll do the right thing. But the problem is when you don't have the legislation, you don't have the oversight, like Alan was talking about. Well, people will just do anything they want to do.
Muchi, if you go to a lot of these places you were actually talking about, and Dynas, I hope I don't have feedback right now. Excuse me. Is that the folks with, and this is just pretty much how it plays out in at least most of the African countries I've been to. If you have political power or you have some money, right? A lot of us understand what privilege is. I'm talking about maybe from a financial standpoint. When I come from here and I'm visiting a lot of these African countries, I know I'm spending my money in US dollars. There's some leverage that I have. I do think that I speak with a heavy African accent. But when I'm on the African continent, most people don't think so. So I'll hear this feedback like, oh, yeah, American, right? And I was like, no, Zambian. And they're like, oh, yeah, I heard that American thing. But again, there's some privilege in there. But again, it's how people use it. I've seen the African local elites. They'll go, and you can just sit there and observe, like just kind of take a step back and watch what's going on. You know the locals with money when they come in, how they get treated. And people can observe just by looking at you, by looking how you look, how refreshed you are, what you're wearing, and they can tell you have some money. Sometimes it's language. If you, in some countries, in being able to be like a native English speaker, you're coming from the West, for instance, the US, UK, that's currency. It accords you or affords you some level of privilege. Whiteness, same thing. Now, here's the deal. You could sit there in places like Zambia, for instance, and watch somebody come in, get a different treatment, and then just a local person who's looked probably somewhat unkempt, doesn't have the fancy stuff, or just from a cosmetic point of view, they're not, well groomed. People were able to pick up, and these foreigners who come in and do business, they've picked up on those sort of idiosyncrasies, and they're able to manipulate them and take advantage. But here's the thing: the people who are encouraging it, who are turning a blind eye, are the elites. Like I was talking about that pedestal, I've gone in all these places when I go, I'm like, excuse me, the person sitting at the pedestal, I was like, hey, I need you to come down here and help me. Usually there's a shock, like, oh, he's asking me. I'm like, this is your shop, right? They'll be like, yeah, okay, I want you to come down. And they'll call somebody. They'll be like, hey, such and such, come over here. I'm like, no. If it's your shop and you want me to spend my money here, you're going to come down and I'm going to ask you questions. You're going to explain to me what I want and you're going to sell it to me, or otherwise I'm leaving. So now here's the thing. I could tell that they're able to accommodate me because they're thinking I'm foreign. I don't know better. I don't know the code. So they'll tolerate me than they will tolerate anybody else. And they'll do the same thing for the local elites. But here's the thing. That whole treatment is never expanded to everybody else. One thing I love about our brothers and sisters in the United States, say what you will. There's a lot of, issues even here in the US. But say what you will. One of the things I had to learn, and some semblance, some little pride that I have in myself, I learned from Black Americans. Because, I came here in my early 20s. I'm in my 40s. And walking around, whether we were clubbing or anywhere we went, I saw a certain sense of pride that I lacked when I came in my early 20s. And just that, exposure, it was so infectious that over time, I started, and when I went to college and I studied, and I was like, whoa, there's a huge problem in the thinking among our elites on the African continent. And really in Uganda, some of that is at the core of the problem. And I don't want to oversimplify the problem, but I do agree largely with what Muchi said and what Alan is saying. There's a larger problem, but you can break it down all the way if you want to make it, ethnic, racial. There's some of those aspects enough for us to talk about.
All right, Elijah, go ahead and unmute yourself, Elijah. Elijah, you got to unmute yourself. Elijah. Okay. All right. So, guys, links in the chat room if you want to call in and add to the conversation. Link is in the chat room. Hey, Alan, is it hot? Is it hella hot up there where you at? It's hot as shit down here.
Yeah, it's been hot the past few days, but I like it hot, so I'm actually pretty happy with it.
I'm talking about in the 100, like it's damn near in the 100.
Oh no, it's not 100. No, it ain't that hot.
Yeah. How hot is up there? Like 80,
Yeah, it's
85?
in the 80s. It's in the 80s.
Oh,
yeah.
that ain't nothing. Like it's almost 100. It's 100 down here. Like, golly.
Good Lord.
Yeah, so guys, links in the chat room if you want to call in. Click on only. Go ahead, Mucci.
Yeah, and I have to agree with Zane, what he was talking about. The one thing I have to admit is that African Americans, they are more sensitive to any stupidity going on around. You see, us Africans, a lot of us, not all of us, like I'll speak for myself. I went to school, high school. I went to school with white kids, with mixed kids, Indians. So I was already I already was confident when I was a kid. I already knew, like, hey, this is our country. Nobody plays games with us. My dad already told us experiences when he was growing up as a kid, when he had to walk on the opposite side of the street, when he had to be home by 6 p.m. and things like that. So I already grew up with this, with something in my mind that said, you know what? I gotta watch these people. I'm watching them more than I would watch a brother or sister. You understand? But I have to admit, the more African Americans come onto the continent, I think it's a win for us. I mean, we don't need no knuckleheads, We're not talking about people who want to fight or this and that, but no, but people who are going to, speak truth to power and hold people accountable, right? So if we go into spaces and we see something that is not right, speak up. Our people don't speak up. That's the problem. A lot of our people back home, they don't speak up. They're not used to speaking up, especially when they're dealing with somebody of another race. And that's a problem. And I have to tell you, I had an experience, right, where I went to a restaurant. We hosted a guy, was a military guy, African American guy, was military infantry guy in Saudi Arabia, and we went to a restaurant in town. And he thought, no, we can't stay here. I said, what's going on? It was me and my other friend. Actually, he lives in Zambia and has a PhD doctor in Zambia now. I said, why? And he was like, no, they are not serving us quick enough. But you see, I was young. And even though I was always some of the things I never was able to tell, But now when I came here to college, I was like, oh, you know what? I didn't even think about when ended up eating at a different place. But he already had noticed that, what, the white people were getting set or whatever, how it was happening. So I like that that African American.
Muchi, I'll just add to what you're saying because real quick, it's a quick personal story as well. Is that growing up, and I feel like Dynast and you guys probably we're about around the same age. So the late 80s, early 90s, influenced heavily when I was growing up with hip hop. So at that time, obviously, Pac and Snoop Dogg, these guys were just starting out or blowing up. So a lot of those lyrics sort of kind of would inform how I viewed, like Black culture. Now, obviously, there's some aspect of hip hop that, not very much for celebrating, but I moved to South Africa and I spent some time a little bit. The first time running into some brothers from the US was in South Africa. This is like sometime mid 90s, late 90s. And I would hear the white South Africans saying, well, I don't like those guys, because, you shouldn't really listen to them. They're aggressive and all this other stuff. So again, I had not lived in the US. So I'm like, I don't know what he's talking about. But there was some resentment there. Now, here's what I found out moving to the US. I would rather any day be overly sensitive, be overly aggressive, than be as passive as how our people are on the African continent. It's just sometimes sick to sit there and watch that folks have no level of pride in certain majority of the time. I'm sorry to say, no level of pride in self, in the country. And I think a lot of that is attributed to we don't have programs. We don't have an education system that can sensitize people. You'll be amazed. In Africa, you look at the education curriculum. Okay, there's no mention in there about exactly what damage colonialism did to our mindset, to our thinking. So a lot of these things, when they happen, the people like Dinas was talking about, like, how come when you go to other countries, there just seems to be this organic sort of coming together, like this sort of like everybody collectively is resentful of something. Even in terms of racism, it just seems like sometimes when you go to these places, like you see in the air, as soon as somebody's born, they know, hey, I'm Chinese, I need to get on code. For our Africans, it seems like something needs to happen along the way. The system itself, which I do agree in terms of oversight, some education that needs to put everybody on the same page. This is what happened to you and your ancestors and your people. This is what the country you're taking over. This is what you need to know about yourself, because a lot of our people don't know enough about themselves. And I would say I might have not been way, insensitive to the topic, but when I came to the U.S., I certainly did get an education about what blackness means, what being an African means, what being a brother in the U.S. Because even some cousins, a cousin of mine visited the U.S. He was at like trying to catch a train, and someone was like, a brother approached him and was like, "Hey, brother," like he was panhandling him, and he said, "Oh, I'm not a brother." So I asked him, he was telling me the story as if it was something to be proud of. I was like, you know what? In America, when somebody says brother, it's kingship. It's like, hey, we are one. So for you, I know you being an African, it doesn't mean anything. And this is a guy that's visited the US, and over time, because he talks to me, he's had to become more sensitive when I explain certain things. I'm like, we are so divided, even on the African continent itself, that we don't see any commonality. You and I, Muchi, being neighbors, Zambia and Zimbabwe, we're still the same people, right? My uncle, for instance, was married in Harare and moved to Chegutu and Gokwe when I visited those places. I have cousins who are both South African, Zimbabwean, Tanzanian. We are all just one people. All these divisions were caused by colonialism. But again, do our people really know we are one?
Zain, you see what you're talking about, one people? We are exactly just that. I have relatives in Malawi and all over Zambia. The thing is, you know what? Now, this is the problem that I have with some South Africans, right? Trying to look at like other African countries like them, Africa, as if they are a distinct country. Not all, but I'm saying there is this tone that comes from some, just like there's a guy who was called Lozi yesterday, right? I mean, kind of like, oh, them Nigerians, this, that kind of language is not good. There was a guy asking, there's a guy, right? A Soto guy was asking Lesotho, right, which is in around South Africa, saying, oh, this language, Moso Awa Tunya, Moso Awa Tunya, which is the smoke that handles the Victoria Falls, right? Which we share with Zambia. That language, Lozo, I think there's Lozi or something, people around that area, right? When you read into history, the people called Kololo, they were chased from South Africa by the Zulus, right? And they moved up into your country, Zambia, now used to be called Barosilates, right? So our people, we migrated all over Southern Africa and all over Africa. If you really travel, I've traveled many African countries, you see there's a lot of words that are similar for the same thing. You know for sure that we are the same people, but guess what? We are quick. We are quick. And the guy was very disingenuous yesterday, that was the guy. He's saying that, oh, this xenophobia happened twice. What kind of idiot is that? A Zimbabwean was killed about a month or so ago. He was burnt to death, okay, in the streets. Burning another black person like that, you will have to search long and long. You will never see them burning a white South African. The same people that did all the crazy stuff to them. You know what I mean? I have nothing against South Africans. I've been to South Africa, but a few times. But to be honest, I would never live there for the simple fact that the attitude is not, for some of it, it's not right. We have to, but again, it goes to the respect, right? You have immigrants from Pakistan, from Bangladesh, all over Europe. They go to South Africa. But those lighter-skinned people, you will never see them being bent by other Africans. They will only bend people that look like us. Because guess what? A lot of the times, we have internal hatred for ourselves. We hate ourselves. That's why the elites in Africa, they allow this stuff to happen. But people don't connect the dots. We don't connect the dots, right? Because the rich African looks at the poor African like, oh, that one, right? And then you see a black and African from a country that's maybe richer than the others, and say, oh, those ones. But let me tell you something. If for my country, Zimbabwe, we know we have suffered from the sanctions and everything. But I'll tell you this: Mugabe was one of the most Pan-African people. Our country will be vindicated because in the long run, right now there are Zimbabweans in their 20s, in their 30s that are taking ownership of farms and farming the land and doing all kinds of things that a lot of Black Africans in Africa, they are not empowered to that extent. So history will tell, but you know what? We might be long gone, but Mugabe, what he did in taking the land from the white people in my country, history will tell that that was the right decision. You know, nothing comes without pain. There might be temporary pain for 30, 40, 50 years, but you know what? It's good for our people. And I stand by his decision.
You see, Muchi, real quick, guys, is
Oh
it
well,
what
let
you,
hold on. Let the Lily go ahead and go. Go ahead, the Lily. Go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you just fine. Go ahead.
Yes. From what everyone else has spoken on, I think we can all agree on the fact that the mindset of continental Africans, that's really where the problem lies, because I think we can all also agree on the fact that since the colonial brainwashing, we've been taught to think a certain way by the ruling powers. So most of us, it's not that we're stupid. We've just been put in a weird position where we cannot think unless it's like white approved. So most of us Africans, we were hesitant to actually think for ourselves or think out of line with what's been programmed into us. But I see that changing just a little bit from people in Africa, and mostly from African immigrants in America, because I'm Kenyan, but I've been in America for about 10 years now. And just comparing my life, like how I used to think in Kenya and now, like I've grown so much, my mindset has changed. And I can attribute that to the fact that I've been around a lot of specifically Black people, and just seeing how white supremacy affects us mostly here in America. And I start to relate it to what's happening in the continent. And you see, things start to change and your mindset starts to change. And most of our brothers and sisters in Africa, they have not been exposed to white supremacy in the scale that we have, those of us living here in America. So most of them don't even have the tools or even like a different way of thinking on how to start thinking for themselves and how to break that like that stronghold, that mindset off of them. So that's why we're suffering from what, you know, everyone feels like they can come to Africa and just do what they want to do and get away with it, because really like that programming is still there. Somebody said early on that the way we've been programmed, like it's almost like the path has been laid. They just need to come and walk in it. So the leaders also that's in our countries, they are part of the colonial puppet legacy. They are either related or friends with someone that was in power. So that
Lily,
legacy is.
Lily, can I ask you a question and I'll finish your statement? But what
Yes.
are your thoughts on Jomo Kenyatta, like for real? But finish your what you were saying, and if you could answer that.
Yes. Let me just complete my thought and then I can answer that. So yeah, like I was saying, the ground has been laid, and the leaders in power, they're basically they're continuing the legacy of some of the traitors that were put in place by the colonial masters to be their gatekeepers into to give them access to continued access to our resources, to basically everything that they want to come and take. So that's why we're still suffering. That's why we're so-called independent, but we're still suffering as though we're still under colonization, because there's still people in power that's basically gatekeeping and continuing that legacy. It's almost like we have still the colonialism, but like it's by people that look like us. And so to your point about Jomo Kenyatta, I'm not very pro Jomo, even though like from what we learned in school growing up, because I went to school in Kenya, we were taught that, oh, he was part of the freedom fighters and all of that stuff. He's the one that helped Kenya gain independence. But as I grew older and started like really learning about what happened and how Jomo Kenyatta was actually like after we gained even from before we gained independence, he was basically sucking up to the Brits, and he had the Mau Mau treated very badly. He
And Lily, I was going to ask that too, because you know, because I guess I don't know in Kenyan history or Kenyan history classes or courses or whatever in
mhm.
school, do they teach you guys about Deaton Kamati and the role he played in the you know fight for independence, or is it just Jomo Kenyatta? But go ahead.
Yeah, we were taught about the Mau Mau, but I can tell you for certainty that the history that we learned in school was not in depth. So it was just like we were just going through like it wasn't a lot of in-depth information about what they did and how everything happened. It was just we were just breathing through history. They just touched on it, like the Mau Mau were involved in the fight for freedom. But as far as putting Jomo Kenyatta in the right light, like for us to see if he was really for us or not, that was not put in the history books. That was something that if you went out and looked for this information yourself, that's the only way you can find it. And how he publicly distanced himself from Dedan Kimathi and all them freedom fighters, and basically so that he could be the one that the Brits hand over the reins to when they left. So in that light, when I came to know this information and him actually taking up almost all the land in Kenya, like they own a lot of land in Kenya. The
Yeah,
Jomo
yeah,
Kenyatta
I
family,
heard. Yeah, so they
they
really
own
do. So that's
so
not a
much
rumor. They
land.
really do.
Yes, they're in control of so much resources in Kenya. And the more you go deep into this history, then you realize that really, like, all skin folk is not, I mean, is not kinfolk. And we have to look carefully and to know who's who, because a lot of us now here in America, I can speak for myself.
Because
Like,
they were saying secretly, like I guess like the daughter of Jomo Kenyatta or Uhuru Kenyatta's sister is like a billionaire, allegedly, if there is a daughter. But that's what I heard. But go ahead.
Um, I don't know specifically about that story, but it's something I cannot disagree with because I know that family is rich as F. I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss up here. They are very rich. I know back in high school, I went to high school in Kenya as well. Um, we used to get milk in school that came from a company called Brookside, which is supposedly owned by the Kenyatta family, which supplies milk all over Kenya. And that's just one company. And also, like with the corruption, his son is he's the president in Kenya now. The corruption in there, um stealing the votes and everything. So basically, just to point to the fact that the colonial puppet legacy is still alive in Africa, and that's what's contributing to the fact that Africa is so slow in progress. Like, we're trying, but we're not where we're supposed to be. So everyone that's listening here has really good points, but my thing is, how do we get rid of this mindset? Because other than the fact that we're talking about this, including people from the Caribbean, African Americans, and I think this is starting to change how we view, especially white supremacy, because the white people are looked at as like gods by most people in Africa, and that's largely due to religion and white Jesus. And that's why white people basically operate almost unopposed in Africa. They just come and do this, this, and that, and they given the benefit of doubt that they can do no wrong, when all this time what they're doing is just wrong. So they go away unscathed, and they continue to just take what they can because they can. And we need to really start I guess brainstorming on how to it all comes from the brainwashing, seriously, like the mindset, because once the mindset changes, then you become a whole different person that's ready to do the things that's necessary. Let me cut myself short. I have a lot to
Okay,
say.
let me ask you this last question, kind of about Kenyan politics. What are your thoughts on because it's like they've had a family rivalry. In fact, there were boys before. I mean, until colonialism was ended. The Odinga family.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are your thoughts on them?
You meant the Odinga family and the Kenyatta family?
Well, the Odinga family, because they're like rivalries. Like, so what's your thoughts on the Odinga family?
I haven't looked much into the Odinga family. I was about to start looking into it because I know Raila Odinga has been running for the presidency in Kenya for the longest time, and he has never got the chance to be president. I don't know why he wants to be president so bad, but anyway, I was gonna start looking into that. I don't know much about the Odinga family history other than his dad was also a political leader. So I'm not sure about the rivalry in the family. I'm not sure about that, but I'll look into it. I'm not sure what's happening as far as the rivalry in the family.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Zanny.
Yeah. Thanks, Lily, for your contribution. A lot of great information. And just like she said, we are not too far removed, on the African continent. Those of us who are like, say, in the 40s, our parents' generation was the generation that was basically maybe late teens in their 20s when most of these African countries were getting independent. So the little that I know about Kenyan history, and this is not from school, is that the Odinga family and the Kenyatta family, they were heavily involved in, obviously, quote unquote, fighting colonialism. And much of what remained of the colonial empire was handed over, the keys, to these families. And for instance, Kenya has been run mostly by the Kenyatta family, but I'm pretty sure if we're all like guessing, it's probably after Kenyatta to just keep the lead on the violence and keep cool. Odinga is probably the anointed one, the next one, just to keep things cool. Whether he's competent or whatever, the Odinga family, it's almost like they have to be rewarded for, hey, whatever efforts they contributed to the colonial fight. And that is kind of similar to what's happened even in places like, say, oil-rich Arabian Peninsula. A lot of those families that are there, they were Western, particularly the British Empire puppets, and put there. And to this day, that oil wealth is managed and runs through those families. So to come back even to my country of origin, Zambia specifically, you have Kaunda, who was there, did a great deal. I'm not going to take anything away, but who was in the room with the negotiations when because we had another guy, Kapwepwe. I don't know. Most people probably don't know this guy, who was regarded as more radical, and the British, puppeteers didn't want him to be the next president. Same thing for countries like South Africa. Nelson Mandela, and again, I'm going to be controversial for saying this, but you will find some people that question the negotiations that came into that were reached prior to 1990, from before Nelson Mandela was released. But we, the younger generation, and have never had an education that was critical, that was where we could sit down and analyze and dissect the history of Africa and rewrite our own books about who our heroes are. I mean, I was debating somebody right here in the U.S., one of these institutions, a professor who was still, again, a white professor who was still perpetrating a lie about who our heroes were, and selecting, oh, this guy was so bad for Africa. And I'm like, we still have our history being written and being talked about by people who actually were sympathizers and who were helping oppress our people. And the final point I might just make with respect to, say, African American history, a lot of what I've seen, I'm just speaking colloquially, is that with African American history, there's been a lot of African American leaders that put in the work in terms of sensitizing the African American community. Like I said, there's a lot of problems, but when you find out where Black folks here in America are, even in the some of the low income areas, you do find a certain sense of Black power, Black pride. There's that sense, and a lot of folks know if they're gonna go do something, even with respect to police brutality. Say what you will, you see a brother or a sister on TV having a back and forth with the police officer, you could walk, whether they're wrong or right, you can walk away with the sense that they're at least ready to stick up for who they are or themselves, even if it means losing their life for it. In the African continent, that's entirely what you don't find. Not to Lily's point, what do we do about it? My suggestion has always been, first of all, YouTube, these platforms are doing a great deal to help what brothers like Dynast are doing and other platforms. And there's been a lot of African Americans, a wave of our brothers and sisters from the diaspora, from the US, specifically, going into Africa, doing all kinds of work. That's helping. But when you look at the core of the problem, the education system itself, no matter what African country you go to, that is what does the disservice for most of us. I graduated high school in Africa. When I left, I did not know a thing except I knew American history, I knew American geography. I could tell you everything about the United States. And to this day, I couldn't tell you a damn thing about Zambia. I had to learn that from the US. So the education system has been dumbed down. The elites know it. And I think one of the things I heard is that to make it easier to run people, politicians believe that an educated class is hard to manage. So they like to keep people dumb, uneducated, unexposed, and therefore they can.
I kind of disagree because there's a lot of feedback. Yeah, it's feedback. I disagree because if you look at Black America, we're I guess an educated class for the most part. But if you look at our condition here and how ignorant we are to a lot of issues or whatnot, I don't know. Here we go. Thomas Sowell said, in Western society, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, I think his name is Thomas Sowell. Is his name Thomas Sowell? Alan, you know what I'm talking about?
Thomas Sowell, yes.
Thomas Sowell. Sorry about that.
Mm-hmm.
He said, in a Western society, you should, I think, be worried about, what did he say? Non-educated people being ignorant, but instead, the college educated are ignorant. Something like that along those lines. But go ahead, Alan.
Yeah. I kind of get the gist of what he was trying to say. If you look at our condition here in the United States, a lot of us they run a different game on us. Basically, we get to be who we are and get to be Black only to the extent that we can help the version of white supremacy that we subscribe to, which is liberal Democrats. So, they understand that because of our condition in this country, that they can't completely fool us and make us seem as if there's nothing going on because it's right there in front of our face. But they limit it by using liberal politics to suppress people actually express themselves fully, and then using our race and our struggle as a Trojan horse for every other movement that goes on in the United States. So there's a different game being played on us here in the United States. Also, the religious thing, you can still see African Americans standing up and forgiving people who've shot their whole family down, and all kinds of stuff like that. So a lot of the same things that are going on in Africa are going on here. They just go on in a different, and they manifest in a different way. Is what I'm trying to say.
Two sides of the same coin.
Yeah. And so Dennis, like the brother is saying, Alan, it goes down to pride, right? So I think, like the sister from Kenya was saying, what can we do? Well, it starts with us as individuals, and I think most of us here are enlightened. But even when you say, if those of us from the continent, when you're visiting, if you talk to your family and friends about issues like that, and if you see something wrong, speak up and tell people, hey, you don't have to put up with this. You're in your country, You're supposed to you're supposed to have more rights than the person coming from another country. Look at those Arab countries, right? Like Zain was talking about, they also, most of them were colonized by the British, but guess what? They almost run on a dictatorship basis. They have monarchies over there. But here's the one difference with African countries. Those guys respect their own. Look at the infrastructure that you have in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, in Emirates, all over the Middle East. They even give monthly stipends. I had two Saudi Arabian students. I was living in a house with from Saudi Arabia when I was going to college. You know what? They were getting their fees paid for, and they were getting a monthly stipend. And then they were even jealous of one of their friends who didn't live with us. The guy was from I think it was either Kuwait, or I think it was Kuwait. He was getting Dynas about $1,500 or $2,000 every month, spending money from his government. You see, so they take care of the people. So you cannot expect an American or British to go to an Arab country and act stupid or act funny. They won't, because they know for a fact they'll be put in jail. They know for a fact the Arabs will not stand for that nonsense. So so it's only us, our leaders. It comes from the top. The citizens, it's harder for the citizens to be more proactive, to assert themselves when they see their leaders sleeping in bed with the same people that are oppressors. Go to South America. I've been to South America. Those people are just as poor, some of them, as in Africa. But one thing is, they will not let foreigners go into. You will not go into Colombia. You will not go into Peru and expect that they would couch out like an American or whatever. No, it doesn't work. They might say, so okay, but no, you will not go there. They'll push you into trouble. But you see, the problem is, our people, our leaders, they don't make it clear that, hey, you know what? You own this country. You are priority. You are number one. It doesn't matter if somebody's coming from America or from England. The natives should always feel that they are in charge, they're in control. But we don't do that. So the leaders don't do that, and then the population just kind of follows we act defeated. We walk around defeated in our own countries. It's a damn shame.
Right now, if you are carrying an American passport, you could go to more African countries than an African can go to two countries right next door to them, right?
I know that.
Yeah, who's stopping us from changing that? I know we're going to talk, people are going to say, well, we have the bigger powers that be. What's the point of the AU, right? So these bodies, like Alan was saying, that are supposed to have oversight, without it, right? Without that oversight, no matter how little the budgets are, without anything at all, people know they can go in and do whatever they want to do, because there are pockets, and these pockets are huge on the African continent, where folks are not educated. I'm talking about maybe formally or informally, and folks can't do anything about it to defend themselves. Even the colonial movement that we've enjoyed so much, that we talk about, our colonial leaders that we had, that all stemmed from the negritude movement, and not to get too academic about it, but a lot of the folks in Africa that learned anything about colonialism, they didn't start that on their own. It was brothers and sisters in the diaspora. And I know, I think maybe that was Dynas that disagreed a little bit. And I'm aware of all the issues that exist in the U.S. I mean, not most, but I mean most of them, as far as the Black community is concerned. But brothers and sisters in Africa, they only got courage, if you will, to do something about colonialism through the negritude movement of the 1930s and 1940s. And these were French-speaking Africans and Caribbean writers in Paris that started protesting against French rule.
No, brother. Don't say that. Don't say that. Because you know what? You give credit to that friend. But let me tell you.
Go ahead, Mochi.
Yeah, okay. I was saying, don't say that. We have a black woman in Zimbabwe who started the fight against the colonialists in 1890s. Her body, her head was taken. Her body was taken to England. And now I think up to recently, I think it was recently repatriated and a statue was built for it. Man, we started fighting. Nobody wants to be oppressed, man. You can get inspiration, but the Africans are already fighting against the system, man. Our people are already fighting. We should give ourselves credit. But I mean, that's something else. But you know what? Like I said, I mean, you know, we just have to have more pride. Just respect our own people, and then you know everything else will take care of ourselves. If the top is rotten, the leadership is rotten, we'll never really go anywhere.
But Butch, just one quick point, right? If when you look at, say, for instance, in the U.S., they have institutions here, and I've listened to some programming that Dynas had where we have HBCUs in the United States, right? These things just were not put in place where Black elites and scholars like Langston Hughes, people can learn about. In Africa, like I'm just speaking specifically, say Zambia, for instance, and I think I've been to quite a few, where even to this day, the history, and I think Lily touched this a little bit, the history we learned about ourselves was very little. I could tell you, I knew that Kaunda was part of the part of the colonial movement, and we got dates that, hey, in 1964 we got independent. So I'm not dismissing any of our people that have contributed, but the thing about it is, just like you told me, right? I should know that piece of history you just shared with me, and it's sad that I don't know it, right? That I have to thank God for people like you sharing.
Exactly.
Now I know. But here's the problem that you're referring to is the same problem we're talking about. The reason why we don't know is that we can't just wish some of these things into existence. We have to have systems and structures in place. Either the ones we already have need to be changed, reformed to where our people can get this information. And those of us who are privileged need to penetrate into all these corners of our countries where, whether there's a little village somewhere, there should be some information center or somewhere where they can access information translated to them, sensitized, if you will, because without any system in place that can have sort of like an overarching response, we can wish all we want. We can talk about these kumbaya sort of moments where we should just get together. It's just not going to happen.
Okay, Zain. So let me tell you, nothing is happening in a vacuum, okay? So you have to understand that when we African countries got independence, at least most of these African countries, right? The curriculum that was in place was Eurocentric. So you're correct. Most of the history that we learned was, we spent more time, I remember in high school, learning about European history, First World War, Second World War, and a little bit about the transatlantic slave trade. Do you understand? And a little bit about on history. The problem that happened is, when the African countries got independence, our leaders were not forward-looking to encourage us enough to say, hey, we need to dismantle this architecture of what we were being taught. Do you understand? So if the Europeans were not wrong, the Europeans were wrong, but they were doing everything in their self-interest. So the history they were writing was catering to their own history, which was European history, American history. You understand? So that's why, again, I go back to the leadership. I mean, hopefully the younger people that are going to power will have a more global view of, like, how do we instill pride in our people? How do we retell our own story? You know, because, you know, we don't have pride and we don't have courage. We just get told, oh, no, capitalism is the best system. Oh, no. Look at the Chinese. The Chinese have gone to where they are today because, you know, guess what? They had these companies that were national companies. They invested into the companies, the government was investing, but you know what? They succeeded. The only thing is, if you have to be courageous like that, you cannot be thieves. You cannot be corrupt. You cannot be people like these people you're talking about, Kenyatta or Moi, some of these people, some of these leaders, Mugabe, some of them, they fought for independence, but they like to hoard, to take everything for themselves, forget about everybody else. You want to have thousands and thousands of hectares of farmland. You want to have all the mines. You want to control or be everywhere in the economy. You understand? You have these families in Africa being multi-billionaires in US dollars when the people don't have access to good cleaning water and basic things. You know, again, I get back again to we have to have pride and we have to respect each other, respect the next black person. And then
Well,
our leaders, if our leaders have that attitude, then they will not do the things that they do. And they would have been, you know what? We need to change the curriculum so that it does not elevate the Europeans to be the masters, to be this, to be that, So we have to change. That's the practical things that can be done. But and then again, you know what? Citizens should be able to push for that, to advocate for such things. So hopefully, when some of us will go back, you try to push for all that. Like, hey, you know what? We need to more local content, more local history in the curriculum for these kids.
The curriculum in a lot of places all around the world is still the same colonial school system that is in place, and the colonial systems have never been truly disrupted and brought up and created a system of your own. So I know in Barbados and I know in Nigeria and a few other countries, you still have judges and people still walking around with powdered wigs, still teaching basically European history, and factually incorrect history in some cases. What needs to happen is that a real true national identities need to be formed, where these histories are actually taught in ways that actually are a benefit to the people, and inform the people of what it is that really happened and how they relate to that history, instead of always telling the story through the eyes of the European.
Yep.
Hey, go ahead.
Absolutely.
1 second. Go ahead, Joe. Unmute yourself, Joe.
All right. So can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
All right. So my name is Joe. I live in Europe, but I'm actually Kenyan. So I just want to extend a little bit on what Lily was saying. So the question you were asking about the Odinga and the Kenyatta family, why their rivals, is actually a very complicated and complex question. So I'm going to explain to you what we've been hearing when we're in Kenya. I actually schooled in Kenya. And of course, this is not what we've been taught in school. So apparently, the British wanted to give the presidency to Odinga's father. Okay. And Odinga's father decided to pass the presidency to Jomo Kenyatta. And through that, Odinga's father became the vice president, and Jomo Kenyatta was the president. And I don't know what issues they had. Apparently, Odinga's father blamed Jomo Kenyatta for being a traitor and all that stuff. So he decided to leave the power. And that caused some serious tribalism between Jomo Kenyatta's tribe with Odinga's tribe. And it really affected Kenya until recently. But I know it rocked a serious violent issue in 2007 in Kenya. So people were actually discussing and saying that on TV, these two families are rivals, but secretly behind the scenes, they're very good friends. Now, in 2017, Lily was right, because Odinga is always running for president, and he's not really had the right luck of winning, but he really wants to be president for some reason. But in the last election in 2017, Odinga lost and Uhuru Kenyatta won, and they had a handshake. So now on TV, we're seeing that these family are really close and the best of friends. And Uhuru Kenyatta is not running for the next election, but he's backing up Raila Odinga. But what I can say is there is no real accountability about these two, like, really fighting for Kenya's independence, because the real heroes who fought for the Kenyan independence are the Mau Maus and Dedan Kimathi, as you're saying. Yes, we're actually taught about Dedan Kimathi in school. We're taught about him being a hero and stuff. And it's sad to say that even his family today, they're really, really poor, including the Mau Mau descendants. They're just normal citizens. Up to date, we're not really sure of where Dedan Kimathi's body was actually buried. But these two, Kenyatta and Odinga, it's just not really understandable where they popped up from. But they're not really the true heroes of Kenya's independence. That's what I want to say.
All right, Elijah, I'm gonna bring you in, but you gotta unmute yourself, Elijah. Elijah, unmute yourself. Well, I'll mute him. Elijah, go
Yeah,
ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, I'm hearing you. Yeah, I want to contribute a
Hey,
little
Elijah,
bit
Elijah, can you get to a better connection? We can't. We can barely hear you, Elijah.
about the
Nah, we can barely hear you, brother.
point
Yeah, Elijah, you gotta call back, okay?
about South Africa.
All right, go ahead, Mike. Mike, we can't hear you, Mike. All right, you guys got to top off. Add some credit to your MTN minutes. All right. All right, guys. Link is in the chat room. Links in the chat room if you want to call in and add to the conversation. Link is in the chat room if you'd like to call in and add to the conversation. Yeah, Mike and Elijah, your connections are off. So again, if you guys want to call in and add to the conversation, links in the chat room. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say, man, I do have to go, but thanks for having me on, man, and take care, everybody. Thanks for everybody for contribution.
Anytime.
Sounds good, Alan. Have a nice weekend, man.
You too.
And don't forget, Monday is Juneteenth, so some of us gonna get a day off. If you're government or state employee, extra day off on Monday.
All right, yeah. Congratulations on your day off.
Celebrate, yes, Black History, yes. I know some states were trying to be funny about that, but hey, we get it that day off, so we got a long weekend.
Right. Well,
congratulations
the school year's over.
Say that again, Alan.
That's it. The school year's over, so I'm off already. So it's
okay, brother. Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
Hey, Alan, how does that work? Do teachers? Do you guys get paid throughout the school year as well, or how
you
that
have
work?
to?
I'm sorry. Do you guys get paid throughout the summer as well?
Yeah, you do if you pick the pay all year option. You have to pick it within a certain window, and then what they do is they withhold a few $100s from each one of your checks, and then you get paid a little bit more during the summertime than you do during the school year if you do pick that option. If you don't, then you'll be you can't wait for the school year to start, because by after a month and a half you won't have any money. That's how that works.
Okay, yeah, cool. but the good thing is, you get to take vacations in summer. I have a friend, actually, he's gonna be tomorrow. We'll be going to a party. One of the sons of my friends, he's gonna start going to college. They're from Ethiopia, and two of them, the dad is a professor, and the other friend is a professor too. One of our friends, and he's going to Ethiopia because they got a long vacation, for the summer. Yeah. So tomorrow we're going to a party. The kid's gonna be starting college, university in the fall. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, cool. And Zain, I wanted to say something about, Zain spoke about Nelson Mandela. I love Nelson Mandela, but there was a leader called Chris Hani in South Africa, right? So in South Africa, there was what was called Umkhonto weSizwe, right? Those guys were collaborating with one of the parties in my country called Zipra, and they were launching. They were attacking gas pipelines and petrol refineries and all that. That guy, he ended up in Zambia with the ANC. He was from the Communist Party, right? But he ended up staying with the ANC in Zambia. Chris Hani was more radical than Nelson Mandela. He was a communist. So you would have been like this Malema guy, type of guy who would have tried to nationalize all this stuff and given real power to black people. But we know how that ended. He was assassinated in 1993. A year before Nelson Mandela became the president, so they always find a way. If there's two, sometimes they always they get rid of the ones that are very assertive, right?
There was Steve Biko too.
Yeah, Steve Biko too. Yeah, for the students movement. Yeah, but Chris Hani was Chris Hani was actually in the political struggle. He was like second to Nelson Mandela. Because when they were negotiating, that the PAC, so there was the Pan-African Communist Party, PAC, and the African National Congress Party, right, ANC, they kind of merged together. And Chris Hani, because the ANC didn't have I don't believe the ANC never had a military wing themselves, but the Umkhonto weSizwe was from the PAC, so that kind of acted as almost for both or something. But Chris Hani was second in command. So if anything happened to Nelson Mandela, he would have been, the next in line or something like that. But he got assassinated because he was very pro-black, and I mean, like he was a radical, pretty much.
All right, so Mike, I'm gonna bring you back on. Let's see if you got your sound working. Unmute yourself, Mike. We still can't hear you, Mike. Still can't hear you. Mike, still can't hear you. Shout out to Ronnie Blue for the super chat. Thank you, Ronnie. Appreciate the super chat. Positive theatrical media on African history is needed for influence. Well, Ronnie, with that being said, my documentary is releasing on the 30th of this month. The trailer is uploaded on my page, so you can go check out the trailer. But again, my documentary is here. It will be released on the 30th. All right, go ahead, Mike.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, that's what I thought. I should have left and Well, anyway, yeah. Sorry, man. I had a meeting earlier, so I had to go to that meeting. So sorry. Okay, I was listening to you guys, man. See, one thing is this. You see, the mind is a terrible thing to lose, And we Africans, we have to get to a point where we need to start looking in the mirror and telling ourselves that, listen, Europeans have done it normal in our minds, to be honest. There was a time I was having a conversation with Tunaja, and then he made a comment, which I often hear from many Africans and Nigerians when they talk. They're like, oh, they've conquered us. The Europeans conquered us. They conquered us. And I'm like, okay, a lot of you guys say they conquered you. Most of you would never see a European person in your lifetime. You live on a continent, you're in control of the continent, and you are telling yourself that you are conquered. How do you come to believe that you're a conquered person? And then they would tell you a story about, they told us in school that the Europeans came and they took over the us, and they give you stories out European victory stories in the past, how they shot up a place and they took over. And then I always ask people, listen, did your forefathers give you their own account of the story, or are you just hearing the only account of the Europeans to jump to conclusion that this is exactly what happened? And that's a saying that until the lion begins to tell his own story, the hunter will continue to be the victor. The thing is, until at one point when I start going into Yoruba land, right, into the villages and having conversation with the people about their history, their encounters with Europeans, I often hear some stories that stunt me. I would hear things about, there was a time when white people came, and the priest will tell them, hey, don't go there, don't touch this tree, or don't dig that place. And then when the Europeans go ahead and do it, and some of them become blind, or some of them will become just crippled, and some of them die. So I hear stories like that from the actual Africans on ground, and I begin to ask myself, hold on, maybe there's things that they don't teach us in school, or that people don't tell us. And then I also ask myself, if Europeans went to North America and they conquered the Red Indians and they wiped them off, they took their land. If they go to Australia, they conquer the Aborigine, they kill them off, they wipe their land, and they took their land. And someone is telling me that they came to Africa, they conquer the Africans the same way, but they're not able to take the continent from the Africans. So how are the Africans conquered? So, and I begin to say, hold on, maybe we need to start examining our mind, what we believe, or how we think, and how we see ourselves. Because most of us don't understand ourselves. And they say the mind is the hardest thing to change, because you need a mind to change the mind. And when I tell many Africans, maybe I think your subconscious mind is not aligned with your conscious mind, and that's why we tend to be doing things that we do that's backward. Because people will say Africans like doing things backward. We tend to make decisions that don't make sense. We tend to have fear for Europeans. We tend to just do whatever they tell us to do. Maybe we need to start asking ourselves, maybe something's wrong with our minds. So they've done something with our minds. Someone like at this point. Hello? See, when you look at African leaders, we just like you guys have been saying throughout this conversation, it's like they just do whatever they're told. It's like they've submitted that. It's only a conquered person that will do that. It's only someone that believes he's been conquered that will literally do what another man tells him to do When you believe that this man has conquered you, that's when you will do whatever they tell you to do. So our curriculum in Africa, we have to do something about it. Or whatever we're telling, even not even your curriculum, whatever we're telling ourselves, we need to start asking ourselves questions. What are we teaching our children? What are we telling ourselves? We're passing down this conquest mindset to our children. An African child born in a village is likely not going to see a white man in his lifetime. But he believes that a white man somewhere that he will never see, that he doesn't see on a daily basis, has conquered him. How does he come to believe something like that? He's something someone is telling him. They tell him, his parent or his people around him in school, they telling him, hey, oh, we have conquered us a long time ago. You're not a conquered person, man. Until we start to realize we're not conquered, that's when we begin to stand up and begin to walk out whatever direction we need to go. You know?
Can I just say something to Mike? I just want you finish your thought, and I could just follow you.
You see, I will tell you something about my family, right? You see, my great grandfather, he was a Ifa priest, you know. And then my grandfather, I knew him as an imam, but he passed away when I was like very young, 6 years old. But I knew him as an imam. Like a imam is like a Muslim leader, Muslim priest. So my parents became Christians and Muslim and things like that. And then when I was raised growing up, I used to be exposed to both every religion, Christianity, Islam, and also African spirituality and things like that. But when at one point in my life, I discovered the truth that okay, I have to go the African way. So I got into the African spirituality. So when I got into the African spirituality and I communicate with the gods, the spirits, and one of the gods is a son, is a spirit. He told me that, hey, your grandfather used to practice African spirituality, but your father was the only one that left the spirituality. I said, what? My grandfather? And my grandfather was a Muslim. He was a priest. So I started doing inquiry. I went in within the family. I started asking them, hey, tell me about my grandfather. And then one of my cousins told me that actually, my cousin is actually older than me. He said, oh, he used to be the one who's cleaning his room. They found out that, oh, he was an imam in the community, but inside he had some orishas. He was actually practicing the spirituality. I'm like, wow, really? And then I'm like, why was he doing that? He said, well, during the colonial time, that when the British were there, they usually we make policy that if you are not a Christian or Muslim, you don't come into the system. If you're practicing African ways, you have to dump it and come into you have to convert to either Christian or Islam to come into their access to their whatever they have going on for in African space. And I begin to ask myself. And today, when I go interact with Africans, I always notice that the only people that bow down to white people are usually the African Christians and the Muslims. And then if you've been to Africa, when the Cubans, the Brazilians, the Europeans, when they come to Africa, who do they show respect to? When they get around the ones that are actually Africans, the Europeans don't disrespect them. They actually bow down to us, right?
Right.
They don't come to disrespect us. I don't know any white man who come to Africa and slap a child of a voodoo priest. He will slap you if you're a Christian or slap you if you're a Muslim because you're powerless. And when you're growing up as a Christian child in Africa, and I was a kid, like I said, my mom, we should take me to church as a kid, and I walk into a church, and in front of the church, it's a picture of a white man. What it does to you psychologically is like, okay, this is my God and my personal savior looks like this, things like that. In northern Nigeria, they killed a girl over Muhammad, an Arab. Oh my God! I don't know, kind of person. The voodoo people, the Ifa people, do they even regard white men as anything or Arab as anything? What they worship is their own African gods. Who do we respect? The Shango, Ogun, Orunmila. That's what we respect. That's what we honor. Look at that shooting that happened in a church in Ondo State, right? When that thing happened, guess what those church people started doing? Now they want justice. Get what? Because the government can't find those shooters, right? They all going to the Babalawos now, telling Babalawo to send Ogun after those people. You see? Africa, man, I think we need to start examining our minds, man. Something number has been done on our minds. Because I can't imagine myself being a Nigerian president as a Babalawo and a European man will tell me what to do. Because first thing I will do is go do a divination, ask the gods what he thinks. And if you start threatening Babalawo, the gods will look out for you. They will protect you. We believe that the gods will protect us. We are confident. We're not afraid of any man. You understand? So maybe until you start to have presidents that are actual Africans and not these people that have been conditioned to be Muslims and Christians, they worship Arabs and Europeans. Maybe that's when things will start to change. I think so. That's
Can I respond to Mike?
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, so Mike, I like the point you talked about if you become president. The sad thing is, like what you said is true. There's something wrong with our minds. We've been given what we call independence, which is actually fake independence. So actually, Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa, we don't have any independence. Now, you said you're not going to do what the Europeans will tell you to do. Sad thing is, if you don't do, oh, he's left the chat. Okay, if you don't do what the Europeans tell you to do, these guys will get rid of you. They'll just kill you. That's the problem. So our minds are rested, man, as Africans. That's why we don't even respect ourselves.
Dynast, can I just follow Joe?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No problem.
Yeah, and this is gonna be my last comment, everybody. I'm about to leave the chart, but real quick, Mike mentioned something that also Joe has mentioned. There's something wrong with our minds, and he also mentioned that the you need the mind to change the mind, and I agree. And part of the reason is that the mind is the most dynamic thing, right? So you could believe something today, you could believe something else tomorrow. We keep talking about slavery, we keep talking about colonialism, and the Europeans use structures and systems to actually fulfill their goals. And in some cases, I'm pretty sure to their amazement and surprise, this was like a gift that keeps on giving. They could not possibly have anticipated how either slavery or any system they put in place, colonialism, would work today. But again, they keep reaping the benefits. To our own discredit, we either have not taken the institutions that we took over to change them and transform them. And there's a term that I ran across a while ago. It's primordial. That in Africa there are two societies that exist side by side. You do have the primordial public, and then you also have the civic public. And the civic public is the system and the institutions that colonialism gave us, that we took over, and our so-called unquote colonial fighters or liberators took over. These were systems that we hardly understood, we hardly studied them, but then obviously we started imitating what they did and started back basically in most cases behaving exactly, if not worse, than the colonial masters. Now let's look at the primordial public, which I think the definition, I looked it up. It says it's moral, operates on the same moral imperative as the private realm. In Africa, if you look at a lot of things that happen in our communities, that sort of like happen in this private space. To Mike's point when he was talking about voodoo, which I've read a little bit, the voodoo culture, I don't know much about, so I don't want to speak too much about it. But from what I know, it's as authentic either Black African history, where our people follow and worship their gods and follow their traditions as they have been, and sort of untouched, uncorrupt. So we have these two spaces that exist where the primordial public has not been institutionalized. And maybe we need to look as a solution to one of the questions or one of the questions posed by Lily. We need to look at those spaces and how do we bring them into the formal sort of structure to effect maximum benefit for our people. Because if you look at a platform such as the one we are on, Dynast is able to reach thousands of people. I mean, those who are on right now and those who are going to view the videos later on. So in keeping with that same theme, the same mindset, to where we take in some of these spaces and some of these ideas, and we structure them and make them systematic, to where the mind, the maximum number of people and their minds can be systemically, repeatedly changed, and they're exposed to this information. Because remember, none of us have monopoly on morality. Nobody's born just a certain way. They have all the right values. The Chinese don't have that. The whites don't have. Nobody has that. But they seem to have institutions that their people put in place, and repeatedly over a period of time, their people get exposed to. And in Africa, that just doesn't seem to be the case. It seems not to have been the case even in the last decades post colonialism in this quote unquote independent space that we're in. But those are my last views, everybody. It was nice talking to everybody and listening to everybody. I just gotta sign off at this point.
Sounds good. Sounds good, man.
Appreciate you coming on, brother.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, so Dennis, I wanted to talk. Mike was talking about, I agree, totally agree with him. I cannot fathom how an African person will kill another African person over a religion that is foreign. I just don't understand how our mindset works. Like, how do we kill each other over a religion brought in by conquerors, by these Arabs and the Europeans? And again, then you go back to our curriculum. What I was talking about, that the curriculums were not changed when you got independent. The curriculum framed everything that the white people did when they came to Africa in a positive light, and they talked about civilization. They brought light, but they forgot. They did not emphasize on all the atrocities, how they killed a lot of our forefathers and our grandparents and stuff like that. I'll give you a specific example. Dennis, I talked to my grandfather before he died. He told me when he was young, when the white people were starting to come to Zimbabwe in the late 18 something, whatever, 1900s or whatever, 18 something, right, 1880 or something like that. They said when they were kids, they said that the white people, they would ride a horse, okay, and they would take like a rope which is so long. They'll ride a horse. They'll go one direction with the horse, right? They peg one place. They ride it. They go one way, and then when they're tired, they'll put another stick, a paw in the ground. They go the other direction, then the other until they had 4 squares. And you know what happened after that? They then would take time going through that whole perimeter. Any African that was already living within that perimeter, they simply told them this was their land. And that's how they chased our forefathers from the land. And most Black people ended up in places which were agriculturally poor. Can you imagine? This is what they did. And then you fast forward 100 years later, when Mugabe took the land back from the white people, just chased them and all that. The first thing is, oh no, that is extrajudicial. They're not doing things according to the law, their own law. The funny thing, but they stole this land. This is how they took the land, like in this manner and format. Just imagine, and the callousness that they turn around and then they say, oh no, you cannot take that land back. You're stealing. You're stealing your own land. Can you imagine stealing your own property? But that's the story. We just have to, look. Only Zimbabwe did that, and we got punished. All the other countries, they just went to sleep and say, hey, we can't upset the status quo. So now you go all over Southern Africa. These people, they own most of the land. You go to Namibia, South Africa, a lot of the places, they own most of the prime land. This and that, but hey, it is what it is. But of course, hopefully we stop this business of killing each other over religion. Definitely not.
One other thing is this, man. We African as well. We need to stop this telling ourselves the story of the victories Europeans had, moments when they, without putting in a complete context, because you may talk about the Southern Africa. They will tell you how they came there and walked the line, just kicked the people off the line and took them, but they won't tell you the beginning, how it started. How it took them hundreds of years before they were able to get to that point. They won't tell you the moments when they first got there, when the Zulus were massacring them, defeated them in many battles, and they left, and then they came back, and then eventually they figured some Africans to work with. Because obviously, I saw the story of South Africa. They say it was the Cont that actually decided to become friends with the British to welcome them. Because initially, when they were coming in, they were losing every battle. Or you white people, they were losing every battle. But then at one point, the Cossacks felt like, hey, let's just accept these nice things they were bringing, and then it became cool, the Kotsa, and then through the Kotsa, they were able to kind of get around. So they don't tell you how to use Africans to get the hedge as well. They will just make it look like they did it on their own. And
Oh,
another
yeah.
point is, if one part of Africa maybe they succeeded taking something, but it doesn't mean they took it in the whole Africa. Because I can imagine a white man just coming to Yoruba land to kick us off the land, because we know it's not possible that way. It's not even. I don't even think that's possible. We see
No,
there.
brother,
I mean, like,
you can't say no. I don't think, Mike. I understand you maybe you're Yoruba and you're fighters and everything, but brother, we have to just acknowledge reality, right? I mean, the people that were taken from Africa were taken from the West, mostly from West Africa. We from Southern Africa, we can't say, oh, there was something
and
wrong
I'm
with the West
sorry,
Africa.
they don't give me the whole story as well.
Let me finish, Mike. The point I'm trying to make is this: the Europeans already had weapons that were more advanced than black people. So ultimately, it was a losing battle.
No, it wasn't a weapon.
They already had guns. They already had ammunition. Well, Africans, we didn't have this.
I'm sorry to say this, brother. Sorry. Europeans do not use any weapon to conquer. Maybe there's some places, but they didn't use weapons to conquer the whole continent. No. Even
They
today,
use
I
weapons
can
in
tell you.
Africa. What are you talking
Wait.
about?
Let me tell you something, man. Let me tell you something. See, Africans need to stop looking at European weapons and say because they have these weapons, let's submit to them and we are conquered. And you need to stop believing that they use weapons. I read one stupid story. Somebody said they used 2 Gatling guns to conquer the whole Nigeria. I'm like, what? 2 machine guns to conquer the whole Nigeria? Are you kidding me? See, that's their story. Listen to me. Those of us that are real Africans, those of us that know who we are, we know how to protect, we know what the power of that continent. We know that there's no weapon in this planet they can use to conquer that continent. All their nuclear bombs, I don't give a shit about it. You cannot conquer that continent.
Man,
Stop looking at their weapons and keep believing that their weapons.
Come on, man. Be a realist.
Listen.
Not giving an answer about something doesn't make it to the reality, man. Come on. You gotta be realistic.
Which answer did I not give you?
Nobody's giving you, but just be practical.
They didn't use weapons.
You're trying to tell me right now somebody comes to your house right now and you don't have a gun.
Okay, Mike. So what did they use? Mike, what did they use?
Mike, you say somebody comes to your house right now and you don't have a gun.
They use Africans.
No, wait. I'm asking you a practical question. If somebody comes to your house today and they have a gun and you have no gun, you telling me that you're gonna fight them with your fist? And you're gonna win that?
If you come to my house, listen. You know what will happen to you if you come to my house right now? You run mad. If you come to my house trying to do something.
No, I'm asking you.
You know what
if you don't have a weapon,
I'm telling you. But I'm answering your question. Listen. Where I live right now, I can give you my address, right? And you come and try to rob me with a gun. I guarantee you run mad. Because I have issue. You know what they call issue?
No, I don't know that.
I'm a priest. I'm a voodoo priest. You run mad.
Okay,
I have a brush. I have a comb. Like
good for you, brother. Good for you.
Until you start to understand things like that, then you know where I'm coming from. Then if you see where I'm coming, you see where I'm going. So a Christian mind can't understand something like that.
Why don't you use? Okay.
If you come and try to break into my house right now, listen. You can't know where you can't comprehend what I'm saying. Maybe Dennis can translate to you for you. You can't comprehend because you guys have lost that knowledge long time ago. You don't know the power of the African continent. You've lost it. That's why you sit there and believe that.
Okay, listen. Okay. Assuming yes, you have power, right? So let me ask you this: why don't you use that power to remove the stupid government in Nigeria?
Because you Africans are the ones.
No, you think you're. I'm not talking about you.
Listen to me. The Nigerian government. Listen. I mentioned to you that the Africans are the ones conquering themselves. The president of Nigeria is not a European; it's an African.
But fine. But you say so. I mean, I don't get it.
No, put a white man. Put a white man. No, listen to me.
Is Nigerian government not?
Listen to me. Listen. Go bring a white man and overthrow the Alaafin of Oyo, overthrow the Oni of Ife, and put a white man on that throne, and I will overthrow him. Okay? You know what I mean? Bring a white man to my tribe and make him my king, and I will overthrow him.
So the power only works against the white man, but it won't work against a bad black person? What difference?
But let's not get into this, man. Let's not even go for that. I'm not here to convince you about anything or to stand up. No, listen. Go educate yourself. Here's the deal. That's the deal with when I have this kind of conversation with a lot of Africans. They will say, "Oh, this your voodoo stuff. This is da. Why don't you use it to do this? Okay, why don't you use your Jesus Christ to stop this?" I just gave you an example. They shut up the church.
No, no, no,
Prior
no,
to
no.
that, those
Who
church
told
people
you
would
I
tell me,
lean
"Wait,
on
wait,
Jesus
wait." They
Christ?
would tell me, Jesus Christ, in the name of Jesus, is so powerful, he can do anything. The government
No,
walk into the church in front of the statue of Jesus. Jesus didn't do anything for them. So go and tell your Jesus to solve your problem and stop coming to me to solve it. Okay?
my friend, I'm not stupid. I think logical. Jesus Christ will not stop a bullet from going through my head. Simple as that. That's physics.
Well, I know where I'm from. Well, you can come over there. I can take you places like give you a gun and go there and try to shoot and see if your gun will work.
I won't come near because I'm already scared, Mike. That's all right, brother.
Well, let's leave it like that then.
That's all good, brother. That's all good.
Yeah, but Mushi, when he said, when I asked him, like, if they didn't use any guns and he said they used Africans, he also has a point on that. Because remember, during colonialism, we had a lot of traitors, man. And unfortunately, those traitors, the descendants are the ones who are even ruling the continent. So yeah, like Africans,
I
they
agree with a lot of traitors. No, I'm on board with that. I'm on board with that. We were told stories about some of our chiefs getting sugar and all this and alcohol, and and then they called them out of land. So I know, I'm on board with that. I know for sure. Yeah.
All right, let's see here. We'll take a couple more callers, then we're going to go ahead and close out. DBM moving services. For some reason you couldn't connect when you came in, when you had logged in, so I couldn't let you on. But hey guys, links in the chat room. Click on it. Click on that link. Couple of announcements. So tour Nigeria, August 8th through the 17th. August 8th through the 17th. If you'd like to roll with us, go to Danfo, DANFO.Africa. And then we have, here we go, DBM Services. Go ahead, brother.
Hey, how you all doing?
We're good.
Can you? Yeah, hello?
I said we're doing good. Go ahead.
Okay, listen, I just was listening to what Mike was saying, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to him, but I was agreeing with what he was saying, but he went all the way to the other route. First and foremost, when white people came to Africa, they did not, even if they used guns or whatever, but they did not conquer Africa just like they used the African people to conquer Africa. They did not use guns. Even if they used guns, but it wasn't, they used their experience of giving gifts to a lot of people behind the scene. A lot of people working for the kings, a lot of those people, they give them gifts so that they can use those gifts to capture other people. And that's how they captured Africa. It was using the same African people to take over Africa. So when Mike is saying all this stuff, he's saying about voodoo and all this stuff, listen, it's a lot of people in Africa that is using voodoo now, and they're doing all this robbery and stuff, and they're all killing them. They are killing. The other stuff don't make no sense. How long are we going to be backwards thinking about? It's not like I don't support that. I mean, I'm gonna tell you this true. When I always say normally, and no matter what anybody says, I mean, I'm not against anybody's religion, but before the white man came to Africa, we were serving gods. We were serving different gods before the white man came. When the white man came, he came with his Bible and used that to suppress us. And that is the problem we're having today in Africa. It's the Christianity that is brainwashing Africa. That's why we will never get nowhere. No matter whatever we do, we can be on here discussing everything we want to discuss. Guess what? That Christianity have to die. When that Christianity die, maybe we're going to see the true fact of life, of what we're going through. Because the Christianity, the pastors, they've used all this stuff to brainwash Africa. And we have to change. We have to change and fight that we do not want this, because there's so many other things we can do better. This Christianity thing is not working for Africa. So when Mike is coming and saying all this voodoo stuff, listen, I agree there's voodoo and all this stuff, but guess what? Life is changing. We're going to move on. And I remember, I don't know if anybody remember this, when I was in school, in very, very little, the white people used to come to my school then and tell us that we should go home, give this to our parents, and find and bring some leaves and whatever what can cure anything that can cure anybody. It was like an experiment, an assignment for everybody to do. And you could see a lot of people going to school coming with all these books of if you plug this leaf and you put this leaf together, it will heal you. If you do this, and these are the things that white people captured and took with them. That's how they were able to use those things. And those are the tools they use.
Hey, bro, something happened to you, brother. Something's going on with your sound. Something's going on with your sound. I don't know if that's me or you. I think something's going on with your sound. Mark, say something now. Oh, we lost him. Oh, Free Game Podcast. Go ahead, brother.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Good.
Man, I'm gonna tell what's the guy that was talking about voodoo? Which one that is?
Mike.
Mike, I'm a Paulo Maambe and Santeria initiate. Just because you practice that religion doesn't mean they can't come and spray you up. They will spray you up, bro. It don't matter what religion you practice. And
thank you.
They will spray you up, and they have done it in America. Have you ever heard of the witch trials? Like they have killed plenty of witches, bro. That won't stop them. I think that for all black people, we dealing with a lot of inner chaos as far as sellouts, and especially the African people. Y'all dealing with a lot of sellouts in y'all culture.
Hold on. Before, sorry, before I go for it, I don't want to forget this. Okay. Do this. Take your gang, right, and go to a village where I'll give you a village where you can go to in Africa. I'm gonna spray them off there, and they can come back here and convince me that you can spray no matter what. Because you guys just talk, and people like you are the problem of the black race. Because you be the first to tell your people, oh no, the white man will take you. You have nothing. Just forget it. Just submit to the white man. People like you are the problem of your people. You are the problem. So before you want to convince me that something will happen or something, go and do it, and then come back to me and tell me that okay, yeah. Because just like I had a guy told me, listen, if you take holy water, take Jesus Christ, pray, do this, and take the Holy Bible and walk into a voodoo shrine and destroy everything. I said, okay, hey, go there and do it. And this son of a bitch wouldn't do it. People will talk, but they will just talk shit. And that's what's going on in the continent. I think Europeans are sponsoring so many blacks to push all this propaganda. All kinds of stories, just bunch of lies and
Mike,
listen. We're not here to recruit you to. And you came here and lied. Wait.
Nobody has to
listen.
You came here and lied. You listen. Don't use foul language here. No. Nobody was using foul language before you came on. Okay, so respect the people on the panel. Not all of us want to hear your foul language.
No. Mike, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question?
You lied. You say you were initiated to South area, and I guarantee you were not.
Okay.
Were you initiated to South area? Were you?
Yes. And also sure? Paulo. Yes, and Paulo Muhammad.
Let's do this right now. Turn your camera on, right? And grab a medal. Are you at home right now?
No, I'm in my truck. Hold on.
Do you have a medal, a knife, or something? I want you to take a hold right now on live camera that you actually were initiated into Santeria. And I'm telling
bro.
you, man, you should be careful because this oath you're about to take, he's really gonna catch you, man, if you're lying. I'm telling you.
Okay, bro.
Don't turn
I
your camera
don't know
on.
what.
That will matter.
I
That
don't
will
know
matter.
why. I don't know why I gotta prove
And
to
I want
you,
you to
but
take a hold. No, no, no. No. I want you to. No, no, no. Because if you're lying, I want to prove to you that God will strike you. I'm telling you. I know. Trust me.
but
I'm not the ordinary person. You just come here and lie to and think
oh,
we'll believe you.
can I talk, Mike? Can I talk? Can I
Okay,
talk?
go ahead and talk. Go ahead and talk. Yeah. But you
Okay.
just admit you were lying about being in the area.
Okay. Okay. I don't have my Lekes or whatever, but I can show you my scratches where I was initiated into Paulo Mambe.
Well, you initiated to Santeria. That's what I'm asking.
Yes, I was initiated in both.
No, you were not. Stop lying. Stop lying. Okay, grab a knife,
Uh,
a metal, and,
uh,
or a cutlass, and take a hold in
but
front of me. And
anyway, Mike, this not going nowhere. Well, okay, so let's say if they don't kill the priest, what about all your other people, bro?
bro, we're not here to discuss all this, man. Just believe whatever you believe and leave us alone and believe what we believe, okay? Don't come and question our own things. If you're a Christian Muslim, do your thing. Don't stop using mouth to just talk about us as if you know anything about us. You know nothing about us. Leave us alone. Leave the we don't disturb you guys. And that's the problem I have in Nigeria. Those that practice African spirituality, we don't go burn our mosques and churches. We do our thing. We mind our business. We don't tell you when you insult our gods, we don't kill you. We're not gods to take care of you by himself. Our gods can fight for themselves. But the Christians will go kill people, and the Muslims will kill people for disrespecting Allah. The Christians will go around pressing propaganda, telling everybody that we are the devils and things. Just leave us alone. If you're a Christian, if it work for you,
Uh,
do it. If you're a Muslim, if
uh,
it work
uh,
for you,
uh,
leave the African people alone. You guys should stop telling us about
Mike,
us. You know nothing
Mike,
about us, okay?
Mike, what I'm asking is, you are a voodoo priest, right? And what I'm saying is, what if you make it and your people and all the other voodoo practitioners make it? But what about your other people, the thousands and millions of other people that's going to die?
And that's the problem of Africa. That's what I'm telling you, that the millions of Africans are lost. That's the point I came here to make. I didn't come here to tell you what you should do or what you should not do. I'm just telling you that millions of Africans are lost. And how did they become people? They were building pyramids. They were worshiping the gods back then. If you go study history of Egypt and all these great empires in Africa, they were worshiping their gods. How did they go from there to becoming this useless population, worshiping Christ and Muhammad? Compare the Africans today under Muhammad and Jesus to Africans when they were worshiping the African gods. So we
Mhm.
feel that are left, they are still doing our own. We feel that are left, they are doing the African ways. Leave us alone. We're not the one to save you. If you're not willing to save yourself, that's your problem. Don't tell us to come save you from the white man. You gotta save yourself. If you turn your back against your gods, that's your problem. Okay? If you stop coming to us telling us to come and use our cause to save you. You believe in your Jesus. Don't use your Jesus to save you from the white man, okay? Use your Jesus Christ to fight the white man that you're worshiping. And don't tell me to come save you. It's not us. If all of you are doing Allah and Holy Bible and all that Holy Ghost and all that bullshit, and you're in your mess and you're blaming us, then how come Africa is like that when voodoo is so powerful? Is it voodoo that tell you to go be worshiping Jesus? Is it voodoo that tell you to go be doing Allah Akbar? So leave us alone, man. We're not disturbing you guys. Just leave us alone. Okay?
Yo, Freeman.
Okay, Mike.
Free game. Can I just ask you a question? Actually,
What?
I want you to finish your comment that you were saying earlier. But when you were saying, like, you were telling Mike that this would maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. But you were saying something like this voodoo can't really work because some witch stuff in America they tried to do it and it didn't work. I don't know. I try to sense like you're probably saying like voodoo is less powerful than these white people's religion.
Well, you have to understand that the European is practicing magic as well. I don't know why people don't think that the Europeans are practicing magic, and also too, they have access to other priests in the African traditions. So it's sellouts within the ATR communities too. So you just can't say, hey, yeah, magic is going to work. Well, they have magicians and priests that's doing work for them as well. So they have adapted to uh our way of living, and most of us is not adapted to the traditional African way of living. We have took Jesus while they have took African spirituality in Solomonic Grimoire magic. So and also too, the people who run America, basically the media, which is the Jewish people, they're high level occultists. So they know the Kabbalah. They have high levels of spirituality. So they are prepared on that front too. So I'm not just saying that voodoo won't work, or it's a part of a plan that needs to be implemented. But um
But what you're insinuating is that there which this cabal stuff, the power is more powerful than voodoo. Is that what you're
no,
insinuating?
I'm not. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is they have they have a select group of people that's practicing it and have tons amount of money, and also too they can use that money to go hire any babalawo they want to.
And that's the ignorant thing people say. See, let me give you a quick education about African spirituality. Okay, we don't control the gods. Okay, the gods control the situation.
Hmm.
We we can corrupt our gods. Okay, the
Hmm.
gods will strike us. That's the difference. If my deity, if I go to my deity and I ask something to be done, he says no, or I ask something to be certain way, he tells me no. I dare not go against it. I
Hmm.
dare not disrespect our deity. We don't disrespect our deity. We don't lie against our deity. That's the difference. So
Hmm.
don't think you guys understand. You guys see when you're limited to a third dimensional thinking of this universe where you guys just can pick up a Bible and lie and do all those things. We can live. We don't do that. We can't do that. We just don't have that freedom to do whatever we like in African spirituality. That's what you need to understand. We don't have the luxury to do that. To do whatever we like. It would do according to the wills of those the deity. We don't do according to our own personal wills. You have to understand that. So don't say somebody will go pay, will buy us and tell us to. That's not the way it works.
But Mike,
Okay.
what Freakem is saying is also right, because I know these colonialists. I don't know about America, but these colonialists, when they came to colonize and when they brought Christianity, they secretly also learned a lot about our spirituality, and they took it with them.
Well, maybe those. That's why those that chose to violate this was because what I learned from our own history was that when the Europeans was coming before they came, when our priests did a divination for the kings, that okay, there are some people coming, and they were given instruction that the population should not accept anything that they bring, and also should not let them in their midst. He will not announce to the population, but when they came and they brought the beautiful things from Europe, a lot of Africans chose to go against the instruction of the deities, the gods, right? And they decided to accept those beautiful things Europeans are bringing. Just like today, they bring Lamborghini and all these things to you. You probably, hey, disobey what the God tells you because I'm a priest. Today, when I do a divination for somebody, I'll tell them, listen, man, the oracle say for the next 15 days, don't tell a lie. For the next 15 days, don't accept gift from somebody. For the next 10 days, don't do this. And 80% of people that I do divination for, they can't help it. I'm sorry. So it's just human nature. So back then, what I was told was everything that God told the Africans not to do and to do, most of it they went against it, and that's how they landed themselves in a mess. So the Africans screwed themselves. The gods didn't screw you, okay? And it's still happening to today. You know, like I give you an example. There are people I do divination for. When I give them instruction, listen, man, don't have sex for the next 10 days. That's what God said. Just do it. Just be disciplined. They can't help it. I'm sorry. So we are our own problem. So let's not blame God. Let's not blame Voodoo and everybody else. We are making bad choices and we are landing ourselves in bad conditions. So the African man is the problem, not his God. Okay. So stop telling me why is Voodoo not helping you. Okay. You help yourself first. Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
Free, you want to respond to that? If not, we'll go ahead and start closing out.
Yeah,
Or
okay,
anybody
that's my
respond to
yeah,
that.
yeah, man.
this,
Yeah, man.
this is my last comment. Thanks for the panel, Dynast. And yes, that's one thing I can agree with my brother that was just talking now. So yes, personal responsibility is very important. All of us, we have a duty to be good people, to be responsible people. You know, both men and women. Us men have to be good to our women, kids, everybody. We all have to be good people because if as individuals we are not good ourselves, the society and the community cannot be good. Thanks, everybody.
You're welcome. All right, go ahead. He left. Okay. All right, everyone. So thank you so much for joining. Like, share, subscribe. Until next time, family, Dynasty Mirror Search for Uhuru. Peace.
Thanks, Dynasty.